All right, and it should be live. Hello, everybody. It is DarkCon Return, and welcome to the live stream reaction and review of the second debate of the 2020 presidential race. That, of course, being the vice presidential debate, more specifically. Second debate in full, first and only vice presidential debate. You get the gist of it. And so far here, I just have nobody except for the incredible Aspie as one of my Strike Force News co-hosts, as one of the panelists to join me in reacting to this. Say hello, Aspie.
Hello there. How you doing? Uh,
Yep. And so, what was the thoughts that you said that you were about to have that you had about the debate, last debate though?
well, I was going to say that this debate might be just a little bit more classy than the other one because you know how Donald Trump is. Regardless of whether or not you support his policies, we all know what type of guy he is. He's a New Yorker. Essentially, that's how I would describe it. He's a New York businessman who's very confrontational and very loud and yeah, but now we have a very religious guy against Kamala Harris. So, I mean, Pence is nice, but honestly, at this point, there's no real solid way to predict what is going to happen. What do you say?
Uh, yeah, I don't know exactly myself. By the way, you mind going over to my YouTube? Oh no, never mind. There's the browser right there. Yeah, I was trying to get the browser so I could shill it on Discord primarily. But yeah, I have no idea, no real idea of how this is gonna go. I can only imagine it's gonna go similarly like the vice presidential debate of last go around. Um, oh come on, why isn't Discord working with me? Ah. I can only imagine that this is going to go similarly to the debate of last go around. Pence is going to be fairly cordial. That's what I predict, anyways. And Harris might be more of the fire-mouthed one as far as who expresses more passion, anyways. Because I remember, like, last go around, Tim Kaine, I think was his name. Tim Kaine was just consistently interrupting Mike Pence. Even almost more so than freaking Donald Trump was doing to Hillary Clinton in the debate before that.
Yeah. What was that again? Can you please repeat that? I didn't understand that. Were you saying that Kamala Harris was interrupting
No, no, no.
Biden more?
I know. I was saying. I was making a comparison to the vice presidential debate of 4 years ago between excuse me, Mike Pence and Tim Kaine, who I think was which I think was the name of the guy who Hillary Clinton had selected for vice president, if I remember correctly. And I just remember that Tim Kaine was a big time interrupter, just constantly interrupting Mike Pence, even more so than Donald Trump interrupted Hillary Clinton, from my memory, anyways.
He seems kind of like a fuddy-duddy.
A
Tim
little
Kaine.
bit.
Tim Kaine was a bit of a fuddy-duddy. Yeah. I don't really know a lot about Tim Kaine, to be honest with you. I think I saw him in like one interview, and I
Nobody really
just thought
does.
he was a bit. I just thought he was kind of really odd. Kind of had a bizarre personality, and just something off. Something just seemed off about him. But other than that, other than my first impressions of him, I don't really know anything about him past that.
Mm-hmm. At everyone live now. Debate starts at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. What the heck? Are you, get your chewing noises out of the freaking mic. But anyway, okay, just shared it on
ASMR.
Discord. Right. But anyway, so I wanted to get out some thoughts about the last debate because I've been listening to other people's opinions and takes about the debate. The one that was between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, the first one. And honestly, I think I might have been a little bit too charitable to Chris Wallace, because I thought that Chris Wallace did pretty good as a moderator at first when listening to him. That was mostly because I was just annoyed too much by the amount of interruptions that Donald Trump was doing to Joe Biden. But listening back, listening to some of the opinions, like Mark Levin was actually one of them. And by the way, just full disclosure, everybody, I have a little bit less of an opinion about a little bit less of a high opinion about Mark Levin as compared to 4 years ago, but nonetheless, he mentioned the point that Joe Biden actually did the interruptions first before Donald Trump, but Donald Trump was a little bit more brazen and obvious about his interruptions. So that in the ultimatum of things, he made himself look bad, and so it just made me more frustrated at him as compared to Joe Biden. Okay, here's how it went. From me re-listening to the debate, or at least my review of the debate, listening to the debate through my live stream of it. Basically, it was opening statement to Donald Trump, obviously, and then the first opening statement, 2-minute opening statement of Joe Biden, and then after the very second that Joe Biden looked like that he was done, sounded like he was done, Donald Trump started speaking in response, and then Joe Biden kind of somewhat subtly interrupted him, and just nobody really caught him on it. So I guess there is a point that maybe somewhat the interruptions from Trump is justified if you're going to be interrupting first. There might be somewhat of a point right there, but I just still think that the fact that Donald Trump took it a step up on the interruptions doesn't seem very justified, and just seems to set a very bad precedent. You're gonna have all these debates just getting a whole lot more and more uncivil on down the line. People in the future will be looking back and saying, "Oh, your guy or the guy from the other side was interrupting the guy on my side a whole lot of times, so I'm going to do it to my opponent right now," even though that the current opponent might not have anything to do with that past debater or whatever else have you. So that's my commentary about that. I can understand why that Donald Trump would start doing interruptions more against Joe Biden, since Joe Biden first started against him, but I still think that Trump took it a bit overboard nonetheless. But that's one thing. The other thing is, looking back, Chris Wallace was kind of arguing with Trump. Now, I'm not going to be like other conservatives or whatever who are just saying outright that Chris Wallace is an embarrassment of a moderator or is just outright biased, because he might be, but I don't think that he's as biased as other people are painting him to be. I still think that he's overall a better moderator than what Lester Holt was 4 years ago when he moderated the first debate between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. And so he's at least marginally better than Lester Holt. If he's not an overall good moderator, he's at least better than Lester Holt, which might not be saying much, but all the same. Because there was still some points that he was somewhat grilling and confronting Joe Biden on. It just wasn't as obvious and wasn't as much as whenever he did it towards Donald Trump, arguing with Trump and so forth. So,
Boo! Boo!
Yeah.
That looks like Nancy Pelosi. But no, that's not Nancy Pelosi. Never mind. Keep going.
No, that was pretty much the end of my spiel. I just wanted to go back and commentate and retract some of the things, or not retract, but reform my opinion about the last debate anyways, because I was being a little bit overly charitable towards Chris Wallace and probably not charitable enough towards Donald Trump, listening back to some of the other opinions that I've heard talking about the debate. So
I see.
got some people in the chat, Zachary, Mikhail, and JC. Hello, y'all, for coming in. And is everyone insane? Says Zachary. Yep. We're all insane for trying to watch this shit show.
Insane. We're all insane. Yeah, we're all insane up here.
Sup, sorry in advance, won't be paying attention as much since I'm playing video games once again, says JC Armitage. No, that's completely okay, JC.
Probably gonna be better than this.
Zach says, I showed my grandmother your stream of the debate and she called it anti
What you call it?
Well, no, wait. I showed my grandmother your stream of the debate, and she called it anti-American for how negative we all were. Why? I don't know. We were only criticizing the candidates.
Oh my gosh! It's
Calling me anti-American.
jeez. People don't really know how to. I guess she didn't watch the whole thing. Maybe she just watched a snippet.
Of my stream? I guess so. JS in the live chat says, I'm assuming it hasn't started yet. No, it has not. It's just a whole bunch of pre-debate announcements being put out here. I'm going to, like, unmute it once the opponents actually arrive. For right now, this is, like, preamble and so forth. And before, by the way, Zach, I take it that your grandmother, that she is a right-winger or conservative herself. Am I correct in that assumption? Also, as far as my whole spiel about the last debate goes, my post first presidential debate spiel goes, I'm going to have a little bit more to say about it in a future live stream because I do plan on reading some articles that go fact-checking at least some of the things that was said in that debate. Like, for example, the claim that manufacturing supposedly went in the hole in the first few years of Donald Trump's tenure. That was claimed by Joe Biden. I already have my doubts of that being true, of what Joe Biden said to be true. But nonetheless, I'm just going to be reviewing some articles next live stream, sort of fact-checking Joe Biden on it. Zachary Colley says, I don't know, to my question of where his grandmother sits in the political spectrum. Well, I'm just going to make an observation that she is at least fairly right-leaning, at least center-right, if she's going to be calling somebody anti-American, because there ain't no way that you are a leftist and could be calling me, of all people, anti-American just because I'm being critical of freaking Donald Trump. It's ridiculous, but it's neither here nor there, really, on where your grandmother sits on the political spectrum, Zach. But nonetheless, no offense to her. I'm sure that she is a nice lady and whatnot. But it's still ridiculous that anybody would be calling me anti-American just because I'm critical of Trump or any political candidate. What do you have to say, Aspie?
I kind of lost track there for the last couple seconds of that, but
yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it is pretty typical. Once it goes on for about longer than 3 minutes, my brain eventually just turns off. Sorry, but anyway, this debate.
No, I gotcha. I can be kind of rambly. You're saying?
Yeah. What is it? What are all those people sitting up there? Have they has Kamala Harris and Mike Pence split into different people? What's going on here?
I don't know. Memes of destruction in the live chat. Hey guys, what's going on? By the way, memes, I have the invite link for the panel right here on both Discord and Twitter group chats if you want to join in this panel and start commentating. It's totally cool. By all means, join. Yeah, straight from the horse's mouth right there. Aspie says that he sucks at this, so I need somebody who sucks less, memes, so please join. By the way, I just noticed that the balance of the audio isn't very good, so I'm going to raise
I'm
up
on my phone.
It's mostly because I did not have desktop audio high enough, but I just rose it up on OBS a little bit more. Hopefully you'll sound a little bit louder now, and the debate will sound a little bit louder once we unmute that.
Oh, I see. That's why I can't see the chat in the little chat thing right here, because you're using OBS, not StreamYard, not directly doing this from StreamYard. I see.
Yep. I just use StreamYard as a Hangout app. I guess I could use Zoom call or something else like that, but
Zoom would probably be much better because it's smoother. Well, not by much. Never mind. This is probably...
Memes of Destruction says 5 a.m. work start. Oh, okay. Sorry to hear that, memes. Get plenty of rest, I guess. Although, I also typically have work at about starting at 7 a.m. and yet I'm still here.
What do you do anyway?
I'm a delivery driver, delivery truck driver.
Yeah, we're both delivery drivers, but I deliver pizza.
I deliver steel.
I see. I thought you were what, like a welder or something.
That's the thing that I do on the side whenever I have the time at my line of work. Um,
So it's more of a hobby rather than your actual like job.
uh, well, I do get to do it at my job whenever there is the time. When we have like side welding projects, maintenance projects, and so forth, my manager will have me doing that welding. And there's nothing much to deliver. Or if I was like last year, I used to work a lot of Saturdays. This year, ever since the Boeing accident and the lockdowns, there hasn't been enough work flowing in for me to work that kind of overtime, so I haven't been working as many Saturdays. But last year, I'd be working Saturdays, and I'm trying to. Sorry,
Sundays too?
No, not Sundays. I won't work Sundays, thank God. But what was I saying? I
One semester at school, I had 5 classes and I had to work 3 days out of the weekend. So
Right, and I remember what I was about to say. Saturday, there's not much delivering that goes on because most other customers that we deliver to are closed at that time. But Saturday mornings, I would typically be I would typically. I would typically be welding whenever I got the chance.
yeah, I work part
Or
time.
that's what I'd be doing Saturday primarily. Anyways.
Here's the thing about pizza delivery. In the older days, you used to have the pizza delivery guys wait off to the side, and when it was their turn, they would take the pizza and then drive off. But now, when you're a pizza delivery, you're not just a pizza delivery guy. You're also a kitchen worker until your turn is up. So, yeah, you pretty much required the delivery drivers do a lot of stuff. I mean, kudos to the kitchen staff. They do a lot of stuff too. In my opinion, they do the harder stuff, because when you're a delivery driver, all you really got to do is drive to the house where you're delivering the pizza, and then go back. And the thing is that my boss says that safety is the number one priority when you're a delivery driver, especially where I am, where the neighborhood in which I deliver the pizzas to is the worst side of my city, like literally the worst side. And my city's pretty unsafe, but my city's pretty unsafe. My city has relatively very high crime, but the worst. It's literally the worst part of that entire city. So I'm going into areas where you tell the cops about it, and they just look at you like, what the heck? And I tell them that we're not allowed to use mace, and they say your manager doesn't need to know that you have mace in your truck. I'm like, that bad, huh? Yeah. Here's the thing about delivering pizza in a crappy neighborhood.
The cops would let you bend the rules, huh?
Yeah, they would let you. They would let me pepper spray. Yeah, they would say, hey, if you keep pepper spray, your manager can't stop you from keeping pepper spray in your truck. So if you want to keep pepper spray in there, it's probably for the best, and if you want to carry it in when you're going somewhere in like one of those very sketchy parts of your neighborhood, just take it with you. Take it with you. My parents actually at one point asked me if I could probably do CC, but the manager will not have that. Could you imagine the guy?
By the way, it seems that our VP candidates are a little bit late towards this debate here, folks.
I know I was going to make a joke about Kamala Harris being late, but I'm not going to say it. But I'm not going to say it.
By the way, I got a chat comment from Jessica in the chat right now. Don't let him kid you. He welds a ton of stuff for us at work. Oh, well, thank you, Jessica. By the way, that's literally what she has as her name in the live chat as her YouTube account.
Oh, that's one of your colleagues?
Yeah, that's one of my coworkers, actually.
Oh, really? Cool. I wish I could share. I wish I could share. I wish I was brave enough to share my YouTube channel with friends. I mean, I put a couple of my singing videos from my YouTube channel on my Facebook, but I took them all down because I want a career, and I don't think my future boss, the leader of the accounting firm, would appreciate me having a sort of hobby like that off to the side. So.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to hide it from my personal life.
Mm-hmm.
My personal friends. I mean,
Good
a couple
evening.
about
From the
it
University
because
of
they
Utah.
commented on it. But
First
all right,
and
here we
only
go.
Vice
Yeah, it
President
looks like
debate
we're about to
of
start.
2020, sponsored by the Nonpartisan Commission on Presidential Debates. I'm Susan Page of USA Today.
Nonpartisan.
It is my
ass
to moderate
Quote,
this
unquote.
debate, an important
I'm
part
going to turn
of our
up the
democracy.
desktop volume
In
just a little bit
Kingsbury
more.
Hall tonight, we have a
Please do.
small and socially
I have
distant
somebody
audience,
else joining the chat
and we've
with us.
taken
And
extra precautions during this pandemic.
Howdy.
Among other things,
Hello, Rational
everyone in
Outlaw.
the audience is
Now shut up,
required
we're
to
starting
wear
here.
face masks, and the candidates will be seated 12 feet apart.
The furries here.
Could you give me the
audience
link? I
is
have someone I want to
enthusiastic
invite.
about their candidates, but
Just
they've
my
agreed to
boyfriend.
express that enthusiasm only twice. At the end of the debate.
I'm sorry, but
And now, when I introduce the candidates.
Oh, come
Please
on,
welcome
Dark.
California Senator.
I'm sorry to say, but no, Rash. This is like a co-host specific stream right here.
Okay. I
Either
understand.
co-host or a fellow panelist of the Strike Force discussion group chats. But anyway, here we are, folks. So because of that rule that I set up for myself, I'm gonna have to respectfully decline, Rash.
Senator Harris and Vice President Pence, thank you for being here. We're meeting as President Trump and the First Lady continue to undergo treatment in Washington after testing positive for COVID-19. We send our thoughts and prayers to them for their rapid and complete recovery and for the recovery of everyone afflicted by the coronavirus. The two campaigns and the Commission on Presidential Debates have agreed to the ground rules for tonight. I'm here to enforce them on behalf of the millions of Americans who are watching.
Who's doing ASMR?
One note, no one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess you can hear me chewing.
Yeah.
My bad. I'm eating pork rinds here, because I did not eat dinner.
one in either campaign or at the
What?
commission
Boy, those are called
or
chitlins.
anywhere else has been told in advance what topics I'll raise or what questions I'll ask. This 90-minute debate will be divided into 9 segments of about 10 minutes each. I'll begin a segment by posing a question to each of you, sometimes the same question, sometimes a different question on the same topic. You will then have 2 minutes to answer without interruption by me or the other candidate. Then we'll take 6 minutes or so to discuss the issue. At that point, although there will always be more to say, we'll move on to the next topic. We want a debate that is lively, but Americans also deserve a
Not too
discussion
lively.
that is civil. These are tumultuous times, but
Indeed.
we can and will have a respectful exchange about the big issues facing our nation. Let's begin with the ongoing pandemic that has cost our country so much.
All right, here we go.
Senator Harris, the coronavirus is not under control.
Ladies
Over the past
first.
week, Johns Hopkins reports that 39 states have had more COVID cases over the past 7 days than in the week before. 9 states have set new records. Even if a vaccine is released soon, the next administration will face hard choices. What would a Biden administration do in January and February that a Trump administration wouldn't do? Would you impose new lockdowns for businesses and schools and hotspots?
By the way, I just want to point out, reflecting back on the last debate, Biden did not really propose hardly anything except for handing out free PPE, free quote unquote PPE to businesses. Aside from that, he did not propose really anything as far as what different he would do from the Trump administration. So maybe Harris's answer will be a little bit better as far as what they'll do different from Trump.
All right, let's take a look here.
A federal mandate to wear masks? You have 2 minutes to respond without interruption.
Thank you, Susan. Well, the American people have witnessed what is the greatest failure of any presidential administration in the history of our country. And here are the facts. 210,000 dead people in our country in just the last several months. Over 7 million people who have contracted this disease. 1 in 5 businesses closed. We're looking at frontline workers who have been treated like sacrificial workers. We are looking at over 30 million people who in the last...
Sacrificial workers, that's so freaking hyperbolic right there. Sacrificial workers for a disease that affects...
Sacrificial lambs, yeah.
Sacrificial workers for a, quote-unquote sacrificial, for a disease that has like a 98% survival rate. Especially if you're like not a senior or of any like serious conditions, which would make up the vast majority of people that are in essential fields. And even for like elderly folk, it's like 17%, which is considerably a lot higher. And I wouldn't advise old people like going out willy-nilly necessarily, but nonetheless, just the hyperbole right there, it just really was a red flag for me.
Several months had to file for unemployment. And here's the thing. On January 28th, the vice president and the president were informed about the nature of this pandemic. They were informed that it's lethal in consequence, that it is airborne, that it will affect young people, and that it would be contracted because it is airborne. And they knew what was happening and they didn't tell you. Can you imagine if you knew on January 28th, as opposed to March 13th, what they knew, what you might have done to prepare? They knew and they covered it up. The president said it was a hoax. They minimized the seriousness of it. The president said, you're on one side of his ledger if you wear a mask, you're on the other side of his ledger if you don't. And in spite of all of that, today they still don't have a plan.
In January, you were calling
They
Republicans
still don't
racist
have-
for actually giving a damn about it.
If we're daring to shut down travel and so forth. I vaguely remember that, but yeah.
Have a plan. Well, Joe Biden does. And our plan is about what we need to do around a national strategy for contact tracing, for testing, for administration of the vaccine, and making sure that it will be free for all. That is the plan that Joe Biden has and that I have, knowing that we have to get a hold of what has been going on, and we need to save our country. And Joe Biden is the best leader to do that, and frankly, this administration has forfeited their right to re-election based on this.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, more than 210,000 Americans have died of COVID-19.
She's acting like the Black Death has come back to haunt us, and that because they did a lack of action on that therefore they're unworthy of leadership completely.
She's basically saying they got Ebola. They've got Ebola.
But by the way, am I the only one who feels that Kamala Harris is so smug with the way that she speaks and whatnot?
She's a bitch.
I wouldn't go that far yet, anyways. But nonetheless, it's just there's something turning off about the way that she was speaking and her body language and so forth. Like, there were two types of emotions that I saw from her: A, smugness; B, crocodile tears, or bordering on crocodile tears, anyways.
19 since February. The U.S. death toll as a percentage of our population is higher than that of almost every other wealthy nation on Earth. For instance, our death rate is 2.5 times that of Canada next door. You head the administration's coronavirus task force. Why is the U.S. death toll as a percentage of our population higher than that of almost every other wealthy country? And you have 2 minutes to respond without interruption.
Susan, thank you. And I want to thank the Commission and the University of Utah for hosting this event. And Senator Harris, it's a privilege to be on the stage with you. You know, our nation has gone through a very challenging time this year. But I want the American people to know that from the very first day, President Donald Trump has put the health of America first. Before, there were more than 5 cases in the United States, all people who had returned from China. President Donald Trump did what no other American president had ever done. And that was he suspended all travel from China, the second largest economy in the world.
Ooh.
Now, Senator Joe Biden opposed that decision. He said it was xenophobic and hysterical. But I can tell you, having led the White House Coronavirus Task Force, that decision alone by President Trump bought us invaluable time to stand up the greatest national mobilization since World War II. And I believe it saved hundreds.
Okay. I got on Harris for hyperbole for saying that all the essential workers are basically sacrificial lambs or whatever.
Ouch.
But that was hyperbole on freaking Pence's part as well. The biggest mobilization since World War II?
Yeah, but it's probably good politically to say that.
Yeah, it is.
It's still okay. It is for all the people who like barely think about politics or barely like go looking at the issues, but I do not think that this is like the biggest mobilization. Really.
Also, the last time.
Wait, what? I thought.
Sorry, that was my boyfriend. I have him on my end. Sorry.
Oh, it's cool. But what was I going to say? Yeah, the saying that's some big mobilization comparable to World War II is really hyperbolic. I would like to take a gander to say that the Iraq War, whether or not that was justified or not, folks, that was a bigger mobilization than what is being done in regards to the coronavirus. Not that I'm saying that there should be a mobilization in response to the coronavirus, but it just Pence, no. But I do like the response that he brings up the point about travel. We'll see of how that exchange goes down, though.
Hundreds of thousands of American lives. Because with that time, we were able to reinvent testing. More than 115 million tests have been done to date. We were able to see to the delivery of billions of supplies so our doctors and nurses had the resource and support they needed. And we began, really, before the month of February was out, to develop a vaccine and to develop medicines and therapeutics that have been saving lives all along the way. And under President Trump's leadership, Operation Warp Speed, we believe, will have literally tens of millions of doses of a vaccine before the end of this year. The reality is, when you look at the Biden plan, it reads an awful lot like what President Trump and I and our task force have been doing every step of the way. I mean, quite frankly, when I look at their plan that talks about advancing testing, creating new PPE, developing a vaccine, it looks a little bit like plagiarism, which is something Joe Biden knows a little bit about. And I think the American people know that this is a president who has put the health of America first, and the American people, I believe with my heart, can be proud of the sacrifices they have made. It's saved countless American lives.
Senator Harris, would you like to respond?
Absolutely. Whatever the vice president is claiming the administration has done, clearly it hasn't worked. When you're looking at over.
Why did Aspie leave?
What? Oh, I don't know. Private chat says I'm gonna leave for a little while. I'll be back. Okay, that's all. He did not give details as to why he was leaving, but anyway.
10,000 dead bodies in our country, American lives that have been lost, families that are grieving that loss. And you know, the vice president is the head of the task force and knew on January 28th how serious this was. And then thanks to Bob Woodward, we learned that they knew about it. And then when that was exposed, the vice president said, when asked, well, why didn't y'all tell anybody? He said, because the president wanted people to remain calm.
Well, let's get
no, but Susan, this is important.
Susan,
I want to add, but
here.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
I have to
I'm
weigh
speaking.
Yeah, you
So
can have
I
15 more
wanna-
seconds, and then we'll give the vice president
Thank
a
you.
chance to
So I
respond.
want to ask the American people, how calm were you when you were panicked about where you're going to get your next roll of toilet paper? How calm were you when your kids were sent home from school and you didn't know when they could go?
Isn't that no longer a problem?
It is no longer a problem now, but I think she's like looking back in time to her credit, and also to her credit as well. I think the moderator was kind of cutting her off unnecessarily at that one point there. But nonetheless, what the fuck is the president supposed to do about toilet paper shortages? It's supposed to like give big subsidies to toilet paper manufacturing companies or something? I would tend to disagree, or...
then we could get the toilet paper mafia.
Yeah, and it's not like that we weren't already producing mass amounts of toilet paper. It's just that the media was fear-mongering people into buying more toilet paper. Well, not toilet paper specifically, but fear-mongering this in general to where that people thought, oh, stock up on toilet paper now.
If I recall, I think it started originally in Australia, the whole toilet paper thing.
What?
Yeah, in Australia.
Okay. Continuing on.
Back. How calm
Thank
were
you.
you
Thank
when
you,
your
Senator
children
Harris.
couldn't see your parents because you were afraid they could kill them?
Let's give Vice President Pence a chance to respond. Vice President Pence, you have 1 minute to
You
respond.
know, there's not a day
Wait a minute. How calm were people when they could not see their... Okay, what was the president supposed to do about that at that point? I mean, the virus was already spreading. I mean, was... Okay, well, was the president supposed to shut down travel a lot sooner? Is that what you're implying with that statement right there about kids not being able to see their grandparents because of the virus being present and so forth? I mean, if that's so, well, like Pence said earlier, you were against the shutdown of travel, and you did not really address that point, Harris. So
Well, that, and also I think, if I recall, I think Trump, I don't know about interstate travel, but I mean, outside the country travel, I think was closed
That's what
off
I'm trying to
within the
refer
first
to.
few deaths.
That's what I'm trying to refer to when I say travel is
okay.
international travel, not necessarily between the states, but from country to country, or from state to state within this country.
I
My
mean,
bad.
each state is kind of like a country, so I don't think you were all that wrong there.
Sorry, what was that again?
I was just commenting that each state is kind of like its own country, so I don't think you're quite wrong there.
Oh, right, federalism and all that. Anyway, let's move on.
gone by that I haven't thought of every American family that's lost a loved one. And I want all of you to know that you'll always be in our hearts and in our prayers. But when you say what the American people have done over these last 8 months hasn't worked, that's a great disservice to the sacrifices the American people have made.
I'm referring
The
to
reality,
you, the
if I may finish, Senator, the reality is Dr. Fauci said everything that he told the president in the Oval Office, the president told the American people. Now, President Trump, I will tell you, has boundless confidence in the American people, and he always spoke with confidence that we'd get through this together. But when you say it hasn't worked, when Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx and our medical experts came to us in the second week of March, they said if the president didn't take the unprecedented step of shutting down roughly half of the American economy, that we could lose 2.2 million Americans. Now, that's the reality.
Thank you.
They also
Thank you,
said
Vice
to us if
President
we
Pence.
did everything right, Susan, we could still lose more than 200,000 Americans.
Vice
Now,
President
one
Pence.
life lost is
Okay.
too
Thank you.
many, Susan. But the American people, I believe, deserve
Okay.
credit for the sacrifices that they have made, putting the health of their family and their neighbors first, our doctors, our nurses, our first
Thank you, Vice
responders.
President Pence.
And I'm going to speak up on behalf of what the American people have done.
Vice President Pence.
I want to say that this debate is worse than the last debate in the effect of how much people are like going over their time and so forth, for one thing. And secondly, I do also want to annotate that Harris did bring up a fair point as in response to Biden, because Biden was referring to the people. Harris was trying to refer to the presidency. So fair point to Harris on that one.
You were in the front row in a Rose Garden event 11 days ago at what seems to have been a super spreader event for senior administration and congressional officials. No social distancing, few masks, and now a cluster of coronavirus cases among those who were there. How can you expect Americans to follow the administration's safety guidelines to protect themselves from COVID when you at the White House have not been doing so?
Well, the American people have demonstrated over the last 8 months that when given the facts, they're willing to put the health of their families and their neighbors and people they don't even know first.
Exactly. Self-determination.
President Trump and I have great confidence in the American people and their ability to take that information and put it into practice. In the height of the epidemic, when we were losing a heartbreaking number of 2,500 Americans a day, we surged resources to New Jersey and New York and New Orleans and Detroit. We told the American people what needed to be done, and the American people made the sacrifices. When the outbreak in the Sun Belt happened this summer, again, Americans stepped forward. But the reality is the work of the President of the United States goes on. A vacancy on the Supreme Court of the United States has come upon us, and the President introduced Judge Amy Coney
Yes,
Barrett.
thank you. Thank you, Vice
But
President
at
Pence.
that, if I may say, that Rose Garden event, there's been a great deal of speculation about it. My wife Karen and I were there and honored to be there. Many of the
I'm sorry. With all due respect, Pence, but your wife has the name Karen at a bad time right now, as far as internet culture goes and whatnot. I just thought that was kind of funny.
people who were at that event, Susan, actually were tested
Yes.
for coronavirus, and it was an outdoor event, which all of our scientists regularly and routinely advise. The difference here is President Trump and I trust the American people to make choices in the best interest of their health. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris consistently talk about mandates, and not just mandates with the coronavirus, but a government takeover of health care,
Thank
the
you, Vice
Green New
President Pence.
Deal, all government control. We're about freedom and respecting the freedom of the American people.
Let's talk about respecting the American people.
By the way, I'm pulling up the numbers right now as far as daily updates of totals by week and state. Provisional death counts for coronavirus disease 2019. Let me looking at this further, but this says total deaths, all deaths involving COVID-19 says 198,809. This is from the CDC's own direct website. So 210,000 seems like slightly inaccurate. Like it's not super inaccurate, but all the same, just to get a little bit nitpicky. And I'm looking at the trend right now as far as COVID-19 deaths, according to CDC goes. That it has been going down. Like it was in the tens of thousands as far as like, well, not monthly, but weekly goes throughout April and parts of May as well. But now in the later parts of the summer and going into the fall even, it's gotten down to around 3,000 and even below 3,000. So in comparison to the height and heat of the lockdowns and the coronavirus in general, we seem to be doing relatively good for what we have set ourselves for. But anyways, well, actually, let me address the chat just a little bit. Damn it, DarkCon beat me to it. Great call, DarkCon. Night Shift 10,000 says, damn it, DarkCon beat me. Beat you to what, Night Shift? And Mikhail says, great call, DarkCon. You talk. Oh, no. You're talking about Karen as far as Mike Pence's wife's name goes. I gotcha. For a moment, I thought Karen was Biden's vice president. I don't think so. But anyway, let's move on, though.
You respect the American people when you tell them the truth. You respect the American people when you have the courage
Which we've
to be a
always
leader
done.
speaking of those things that you may not want people to hear, but they need to hear so they can protect themselves. But this administration stood on information that if you had as a parent, if you had as a worker knowing you didn't have enough money saved up, and now you're standing in a food line because of the ineptitude of an administration that was unwilling to speak the truth to the American people.
You know why those food lines were existing? Is because of government action in the first place. It's not because of the coronavirus itself. It's because of the lockdowns that people decide to enact, that governors and different state governments decide to enact in response to it. It's not because of and those lockdowns, like I said, obviously, not because of Trump specifically, because Trump did have a little bit of something to do as far as lockdowns and government action goes, but the states had the bigger part in it, and it's more the governor's fault than the president's fault as to how the lockdowns happen and because of food lines happening from the lockdowns. So don't go projecting that on Trump, Harris.
So let's talk about caring about the American people. The American people have had to sacrifice far too much because of the incompetence of this administration. It is asking too much of the people.
Susan, we talked
No,
about
Vice
It
this.
is
President
asking
Pence.
too much of the people.
Look-
That they would not be equipped with the information they need to help themselves to protect
Susan,
their
the
parents
President-
and
No,
their
I'm
children.
sorry. Kamala Harris, Senator Harris, I'm sorry.
It's
I meant
fine,
to
I'm
say-
Kamala.
No, you're Senator Harris to me. For life to get back to normal, Dr. Anthony Fauci and other experts say that most of the people who can be vaccinated need to be vaccinated. But half of Americans now say they wouldn't take a vaccine if it was released now.
Ooh, this this is gonna be good. I wonder of what Harris is going to say in response, of what either of these two are going to say in response. Half the American people won't take it. Is either one of them going to go full on El Dictador and start enforcing a vaccine upon every last citizen?
If the Trump administration approves a vaccine before or after the election, should Americans take it, and would you take it?
If the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that we should take it, I'll be the first in line to take it. Absolutely. But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
Vice President Pence, there have been a lot of repercussions from this pandemic. In recent days, the president's diagnosis of COVID-19 has underscored the importance of the job that you hold and that you are seeking. That's our second topic tonight. It's the role of the vice president. One of you will make history on January 20th. You will be the vice president to the oldest president the United States has ever had. Donald Trump will be 74 years old on Inauguration Day. Joe Biden will be 78 years old. That already has raised concerns among some voters, concerns that have been sharpened by President Trump's hospitalization.
I don't think, okay, so we're moving on from coronavirus, it looks like. I really don't think that the coronavirus issue has been sufficiently addressed by these two. Just my opinion, folks.
In recent days. Vice President Pence, have you had a conversation?
And I also want to say that Harris wasn't really addressing the point that Pence brought up about stopping travel, about how Biden was against that. And I think he even said that Harris was against stopping travel from other countries as well in response to the coronavirus. So, bad on you, Harris, for not addressing that part. So, I don't know. Anyway.
Or reached an agreement with President Trump about safeguards or procedures when it comes to the issue of presidential disability? And if not, do you think you should? You have 2 minutes without interruption.
Okay, so we'll get to that here in a bit. Zachary Colley in the chat says, you know, a lot of this bit about knowledge is sketchy, since Pooh and Who were being shady. I know who you're referring to as Pooh. Xi Jinping, the chairman of the Communist Party in China. Mikhail says, so Camel Toe won. Camel Toe. I don't know if I should be reading that aloud, but apparently we're referring to Harris as Camel Toe. So Camel Toe wants to talk about truth. Okay, how about she answer for claiming she smoked pot while listening to Tupac about 2 years before his first album? What? I don't get it. I mean, I guess that is something that's sketchy about somebody who is basically in law enforcement or was an attorney at one point. I think that's the history of Harris anyways. And yet she'd be breaking the law as far as the drug war goes. Okay, so Pence doesn't get to answer the question about a vaccine even though Camel Toe did. You know what? Thanks for pointing that out, Mikhail. Thanks a lot for pointing that out. That was unfair moderating right there. The moderator deciding, okay, Pence, you don't get to address the whole vaccine issue. Only Harris does. Yeah, shit. That was shitty moderating right there. I'm already starting to get more disappointed in this moderator than Chris Wallace.
Well, Susan, thank you. Although I would like to go back.
I think we need to move on to the issue of
thank you, but I would like to go back because the reality is that we're going to have a vaccine.
Okay. So Pence, he sees that there's some unfairness in setting up of this debate. I will say that is good on Pence for rewinding back on that, talking about the vaccine. Let's go.
Senator, in record time, in unheard of time, in less than a year, we have 5 companies in phase 3 clinical trials, and we're right now producing tens of millions of doses. So the fact that you continue to undermine public confidence in a vaccine, if the vaccine emerges during the Trump administration, I think is unconscionable. And Senator, I just ask you, stop playing politics with people's lives. The reality is that we will have a vaccine.
I don't know about that line. That seems so. That seemed almost weaselly, that line right there. Stop playing politics with people's lives. I don't know. Moving on.
We believe before the end of this year. And it will have the capacity to save countless American lives. And your continuous undermining of confidence in a vaccine is it's just unacceptable. And let me also say,
I don't know if I recall Harris saying undermining efforts on a vaccine.
She did she said if Trump recommended taking the vaccine, she would not take it.
Oh, I guess I wasn't. Okay, never mind. Yeah, I guess I wasn't paying so much attention to that, so my bad.
You know, the reality is when you talk about failure in this administration, we actually do know what failure looks like in a pandemic. It was 2009. The swine flu arrived in the United States. Thankfully, it ended up not being as lethal as the coronavirus. But before the end of the year, when Joe Biden was vice president of the United States, not 7.5 million people contracted the swine flu, 60 million Americans contracted the swine flu. If the swine flu had been as lethal as the coronavirus, in 2009, when Joe Biden was vice president, we would have lost 2 million American lives. His own chief of staff, Ron Klain, would say last year that it was pure luck that they did, quote, everything possible wrong. And we learned from that. They left the strategic national stockpile empty. They left an empty and hollow plan, but we still learned from it. And I think the American people, I want to say again, can be proud of what we have done. And Senator, please stop undermining confidence in a vaccine.
Senator Harris, let me ask you the same question that I asked Vice President Pence, which is, have you had a conversation or reached an agreement with Vice President Biden about safeguards or procedures when it comes to the issue of presidential disability? And if not, and if you win the election next month, do you think you should? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So let me tell you, first of all, the day I got the call from Joe Biden, it was actually a Zoom call, asking me to serve with him on this ticket was probably one of the most memorable days of my life. I thought about my mother, who came to the United States at the age of 19, gave birth to me at the age of 25 at Kaiser Hospital in Oakland, California. And the thought that I'd be sitting here right now, I know would make her proud, and she must be looking down on this. Joe and I were raised in a very similar way. We were raised with values that are about hard work, about the value and the dignity of public service, and about the importance of fighting for the dignity of all people. And I think Joe asked me to serve with him because, I have a career that included being elected the first woman district attorney of San Francisco, where I created models of innovation for law enforcement in terms of reform of the criminal justice system. I was elected the first woman of color and black woman to be elected Attorney General of the state of California, where I ran the second largest Department of Justice in the United States, second only to the United States Department of Justice. And there I took on everything from transnational criminal organizations to the big banks that were taking advantage of homeowners to for-profit colleges that were taking advantage of veterans. And then, of course, now I serve in the United States Senate as only the second black woman ever elected to the United States Senate. I serve on the Senate Intelligence Committee, where I've been in regular receipt of...
And Kim Klacik, if she wins her respectful election in, I think it is Maryland, either Maryland or Massachusetts, will be the third ever black woman elected to the Senate. Have you guys ever heard of Kim Klacik there in the live chat? Just out of curiosity, what are people's opinions of Kim Klacik?
Classified information about threats to our nation and hotspots around the world. I've traveled the world. I've met with our soldiers in war zones. And I think Joe has asked me to serve with him because he knows that we share a purpose, which is about lifting up the American people. And after the 4 years that we have seen of Donald Trump unifying our country around our common values and principles.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Neither President Trump nor Vice President Biden has released a sort of detailed health information that had become the modern norm until the 2016 election.
By the way, just FYI, people, I do have this sped up a little bit because I think we can tolerate it being sped up a bit for us to help catch up. The reason why I almost did that with the last debate, but then I realized after speeding it up that Chris Wallace was almost incomprehensible with how fast he naturally speaks and combined with speeding up the video. But anyway.
And in recent days, President Trump's doctors have given misleading answers or refused to answer basic questions about his health. And my question to each of you in turn is this information voters deserve to know? Vice President Pence, would you like to go first?
Well, Susan, thank you. And let me say, on behalf of the President and the First Lady, how moved we've all been by the outpouring of prayers and concern for the President. And I do believe it's emblematic of the prayers and the concern that have ushered forth for every American impacted by the coronavirus. But the care the President received at Walter Reed Hospital, the White House doctors, was exceptional. And the transparency that they practiced all along the way will continue. The American people have a right to know about the health and well-being of their President, and will continue to do that. But I'm just extremely grateful and was more than a little moved by the broad and bipartisan support. And Senator, I want to thank you and Joe Biden for your expressions of genuine concern. And I also want to congratulate you, as I did on that phone call, on the historic nature of your nomination. I never expected to be on this stage 4 years ago, so I know the feeling. But the reality is, we've got an election before the American people in the midst of this challenging year, and the stakes have never been higher. But I think the choice has never been clearer.
I want to give Senator Harris a chance to respond to the same question I asked, which is, do voters have a right to know more detailed health information about presidential candidates, and especially about presidents, especially when they're facing some kind of challenge?
Absolutely, and that's why Joe Biden has been so incredibly transparent, and certainly by contrast, the President has not, both in terms of health records and also looking at taxes.
Were you about to say something brash, or did you just want to?
Oh no, I just wanted to give out my laugh because that is the transparency. Biden has not been transparent with his health at all.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what's his mental health like, Harris? Can you address that for us? I mean, if we're going to get into this issue.
We now know, because of great investigative journalism, that Donald Trump paid $750 in taxes. When I first heard about it, I literally said, "You mean $750,000?" And it was like, no, $750. We now know Donald Trump owes and is in debt for $400 million. And just so everyone is clear, when we say in debt, it means you owe money to somebody. And it'd be really good to know who the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, owes money to, because the American people have a right to know what is influencing the President's decisions, and is he making those decisions on the best?
I just want to say, in my opinion, that even though I think that Harris comes off as a little bit more smug than Pence, but that Pence seemingly comes off as slightly more nervous than Harris. Of course, that's just me.
Interest of the American people, of you, or self-interest? So, Susan, I'm glad you asked about transparency, because it has to be across the board. Joe has been incredibly transparent over many, many years. The one thing we all know about Joe, he puts it all out there. He is honest, he is forthright. But Donald Trump, on the other hand, has been about covering up everything.
Thank you, Senator Harris. I want to give you a chance to respond, Vice President.
Well, look, I respect the fact that Joe Biden spent 47 years in public life. I respect your public service as well.
Thank you.
The American people have a president who's a businessman, who's a job creator, who's paid tens of millions of dollars in taxes, payroll taxes, property taxes. He's created tens of thousands of American jobs. And the president said those public reports are not accurate. And the president's also released literally stacks of financial disclosures the American people can review, just as the law allows. But the distinction here is that Joe Biden, 47 years in public service, compared to President Donald Trump, who brought all of that experience 4 years ago.
Thank you, Vice
and
President.
turned this economy around by cutting taxes, rolling back regulation, unleashing
Vice
American
President.
energy, fighting for free and fair trade, and all.
Oh, come on. You did not even let him speak as long as you let Harris speak. Come on, just give him a little bit longer.
Thank you, Vice President.
If Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
You know, that's a good segue into our third
great
topic,
segue.
which is about the economy. This has been another aspect of life for Americans that's been so affected by this coronavirus. We have a jobs crisis brewing. On Friday, we learned that the unemployment rate had declined to 7.9% in September, but the job growth had stalled, and that was before the latest round of layoffs and furloughs in the airline industry at Disney and elsewhere. Hundreds of thousands of discouraged workers have stopped looking for work. Nearly 11 million jobs that existed at the beginning of the year haven't been replaced. Those hardest hit include Latinos, blacks, and women. Senator Harris, the Biden-Harris campaign has proposed new programs to boost the economy, and you would pay for that new spending by raising $4 trillion in taxes on wealthy individuals and corporations. Some economists warn that could curb entrepreneurial ventures that fuel growth and create jobs. Would raising taxes put the recovery at risk? And you have 2 minutes to answer uninterrupted.
Thank you. On the issue of the economy, I think there couldn't be a more fundamental difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Joe Biden believes you measure the health and the strength of America's economy based on the health and the strength of the American worker and the American family. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who measures the strength of the economy based on how rich people are doing, which is why he passed a tax bill benefiting the top 1% and the biggest corporations of America, leading to a $2 trillion deficit that the American people are going to have to pay for. On day one, Joe Biden will repeal that tax bill. He'll get rid of it. And what he'll do with the money is invest it in the American people. And through a plan that is about investing in infrastructure, something that Donald Trump said he would do. I remember hearing about some infrastructure week. I don't think it ever happened. But Joe Biden will do that. He'll invest in infrastructure. It's about upgrading our roads and bridges, but also investing in clean energy and renewable energy. Joe is going to invest that money in what we need to do around innovation. There was a time when our country believed in science and invested in research and development so that we were an innovation leader on the globe.
Are you literally going to make that talking point just because that there is like some people that are like questioning the sciences or questioning other people's claims about the sciences? Well, that's been existent for all time within this country and within all of the world societies, and for that matter, it's nothing special about this during this day and time. Harris, come on, get off your high horse, for crying out loud.
Globe. Joe Biden will use that money to invest in education. So, for example, for folks who want to go to a 2-year community college, it will be free. If you come from a family that makes less than $125,000, you'll go to a public university for free. And across the board, we'll make sure that if you have student loan debt, it's cut by $10,000. That's how Joe Biden thinks about the economy, which is it's about investing in the people of our country as opposed to passing a tax bill, which had the benefit of letting American corporations go offshore to do their business.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, your administration has been predicting a rapid and robust recovery, but the latest economic report suggests that's not happening. Should Americans be braced for an economic comeback that is going to take not months, but a year or more? You have 2 minutes to answer, uninterrupted.
When President Trump and I took office, America had gone through the slowest economic recovery since the Great Depression. When Joe Biden was vice president, they tried to tax and spend and regulate and bail our way back to a growing economy. President Trump cut taxes across the board. Despite what
Trump also injected his own stimulus plan. And not to mention, fast forward to present day, the pandemic has come about. He's also did his own bailouts to multiple different companies in that regard. So it's nothing like starkingly different between Trump and Obama, economically speaking.
Senator Harris says the average American family of 4 had $2,000 in savings and taxes. And with the rise in wages that occurred, most predominantly for blue-collar, hardworking Americans, the average household income for a family of 4 increased by $4,000 following President Trump's tax cuts. But America, you just heard Senator Harris tell you, on day one.
Verified news in the chat says playback at 0.75 speed. It sounds normal. Well, I have it sped up by 1.5. I guess I'll slow it down to 1.25 instead. But I'm just one to like catch up with the live broadcast and been doing like fairly well so far as catching up goes.
Joe Biden's going to raise your taxes. It's really remarkable to think. I mean, right after.
Wait. You're saying that's not the case, Harris? Oh, God. She's probably going to make the claim. Oh, gosh. Taxes will get raised, just not on the people that Harris wants to focus on as far as who gets, most of the tax cuts. I don't know. I really hate this divide between left and right when it comes to who gets, well, not to say that the right wants tax decreases only for the rich or whatever have you, but I don't like this difference in interpretation as far as tax cuts go between the left and right, because look at that smug ass smirk right there. I don't know the words to get out my point, but I know what I want to say, but I just don't have the words quite to say it necessarily.
A time where we're going through a pandemic that lost 22 million jobs at the height. We've already added back 11.6 million jobs because we had a president who cut taxes, rolled back regulation, unleashed American energy, fought for free and fair trade, and secured $4 trillion from the Congress of the United States to give direct payments to families, save 50 million jobs through the Paycheck Protection Program.
Valentino Santoro in the chat says, didn't Trump bail out farmers while Obama bailed out General Motors? Yeah, that's another bailout from Trump. He gave subsidies and bailouts to farmers after he had hurt them with his own tariffs. So, yeah. Thanks for a reminder on that, Valentino. And by the way, Rash, I take it that Valentino is Z?
Yeah, that's him.
All right. Anyways, moving on.
We literally have spared no expense to help the American people and the American worker through this. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris want to raise taxes. They want to bury our economy under a $2 trillion Green New Deal, which you were one of the original co-sponsors of in the United States Senate. They want to abolish fossil fuels and ban fracking, which would cost hundreds of thousands of American jobs all across the heartland. And Joe Biden wants to go back to the economic surrender to China, that when we took office, half of our international trade deficit was with China alone. And Joe Biden wants to repeal all of the tariffs that President Trump put into effect to fight for American jobs and American workers. Joe Biden says democracy's on the ballot. Make no mistake about it, Susan. The American economy, the American comeback is on the ballot with 4 more years of growth and opportunity, 4 more years of President Donald Trump. 2021 is going to be the biggest economic year in the history of this country.
Thank you, Vice President Pence. Senator Harris.
Well, I mean, I thought we saw enough of it in last week's debate, but I think this is supposed to be a debate based on fact and truth. And the truth and the fact is, Joe Biden has been very clear. He will not raise taxes on anybody who makes less than $400,000 a year.
He said he's going to repeal the Trump tax cuts.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
Well, wait,
I'm speaking.
It'd be important if you said the truth. Joe Biden said twice in the debate last week that he's going to repeal the Trump tax cuts. That was tax cuts that gave the average working family $2,000 in a tax break every single year. Senator,
that is
that's the math.
absolutely not true.
Is he only going to repeal part of the Trump tax cuts?
If you don't mind letting me finish, we can then have a conversation, okay?
Please.
Okay.
Oh, jeez.
Joe Biden will not raise taxes on anyone who makes less than $400,000 a year. He has been very clear about that. Joe Biden will not end fracking. He has been very clear about that. Joe Biden is the one who...
But he's still going to undo the tax cuts as far as rich people specifically goes, right? So if that's the case, well, then he really wasn't wrong as far as repealing the tax cuts go. Shut the fuck up, Harris. And by the way, I do want to say that despite Pence interrupting right there, that was kind of a turnoff. But what was also a turnoff at the same time was when Harris was, making attacks at Pence's expense, borderlining personal attacks about him being dishonest or implying dishonesty, anyways. But moving on.
During the Great Recession was responsible for the Recovery Act that brought America back, and now the Trump-Pence administration wants to take credit when they rode the coattails of Joe Biden's success for the economy that they had at the beginning of their term. Of course, now the economy is a complete disaster. But Joe Biden, on the one hand, did that. On the other hand, you have...
Because of the lockdowns put in place.
Donald.
And I guess it is fair enough to say that there are some businesses that did their own private sector actions in response to the coronavirus. It's not just the lockdowns, but all the same, yeah, just put things in context.
Trump, who has reigned over a recession that is being compared to the Great Depression. On the one hand, you have Joe Biden, who was responsible with President Barack Obama for the Affordable Care Act, which brought health care to over 20 million Americans and protected people with pre-existing conditions. And what it also did is it saved...
How many of them people actually wanted it? Just saying.
...saved those families who otherwise were going bankrupt because of hospital bills they could not afford. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who's in court right now, trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which means that you will lose protections if you have pre-existing conditions. And this is very important, Susan.
Yes,
and it's
but we need to give Vice President.
He interrupted me, and I'd like to just finish, please. If you have a pre-existing
Yeah, it's because that you're making attacks at him, but I digress.
condition, heart disease, diabetes, breast cancer, they're coming for you. If you love someone who has a pre-existing condition, they're coming for you. If you are under the age of 26 on your parents' coverage, they're coming for you.
Senator Harris, thank you.
You're
Let me
welcome.
give you a chance to respond.
Well, I hope we have a chance to talk about health care, because Obamacare was a disaster. The American people remember it well. And President Trump and I have a plan to improve health care and to protect pre-existing.
Another thing that I'm consistently realizing about this debate is that Pence keeps on asking for basically nudging, what's her name? Sarah? Or the moderator? Susan. My bad. Susan. Nudging Susan that, hey, I would like some time to respond. And she tries to oblige by that, so that's fair and well enough. But it seems that also, on the other hand, that Susan not only did not officially give Pence the chance to respond to the whole vaccine question, she wanted him to address something else, and at the same time is almost cutting off Pence a lot sooner than Harris as far as official time that she gives to comparing official time that she gives to these two.
Conditions for every American. But look, Senator Harris, you're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. You yourself said on multiple occasions when you were running for president that you would ban fracking. Joe Biden looked at a supporter in the eye and pointed and said, I guarantee that we will abolish fossil fuels. They have a $2 trillion version of the Green New Deal, Susan, that your newspaper, USA Today,
I wonder if she's actually going to respond to that or if she's going to go off on something else.
they said really wasn't that very different from the original Green New Deal. More taxes, more regulation, banning fracking, abolishing fossil fuel, crushing American energy, and economic surrender to China is a prescription for economic decline. President Trump and I will keep America growing. The V-shaped recovery that's underway right now will continue with 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House.
Thank you very, very much, Vice President Pence. Once again, you've provided the perfect segue to a new topic, which is climate change. And Vice President Pence, I'd like to pose the first question to you. This year, we've seen record-setting hurricanes in the South. Another one, Hurricane Delta, is now threatening the Gulf. And we have seen record-setting wildfires in the West. Do you believe, as the scientific community has concluded, that man-made climate change has made wildfires bigger, hotter, and more deadly, and have made hurricanes wetter, slower, and more damaging? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Thank you, Susan. Well, first, I'm very proud of our record on the environment and on conservation. According to all of the best estimates, our air and land are cleaner than any time ever recorded. And our water is among the cleanest in the world. And just a little while ago, the President signed the Outdoors Act. It's the largest investment in our public lands and public parks in 100 years. So President Trump has made a commitment to conservation and to the environment. Now, with regard to climate change, the climate is changing. But the issue is, what's the cause and what do we do about it? President Trump has made it clear that we're going to continue to listen to the science.
I'm going to look into it and then present my research in the next live stream. But part of those wildfires' fault, if not all of it, is because of arsonists. Anyway.
Well, actually, no, it's because of the state government of California not getting rid of the brush and dead trees and stuff. That is one of the big reasons why the wildfires became such a problem in California.
What about
the management here sucks.
What about the arsonists that I've been hearing about and am going to?
I mean, I can't remember if there were arsonists. There might have been arsonists, but the main problem, regardless whether there are arsonists or not, the fire would have been a lot less worse if the brush was cleared like it's supposed to be cleared, and the dead trees were cleared and everything, and if there were controlled burnings before any of this happened.
You know, it's quite ironic. California likes to try and pride itself. I don't know explicitly, but imply pride in being the most green or environmentally friendly state, but at the same time, they're ironically enough destroying their own environment. I mean, I still.
Oh no, they are fucked up. The environmentalists are not real environmentalists.
I still remember back when the Delta smelt. That's the name of the fish. Yeah, the Delta smelt. They decided to cut off water source for a whole bunch of farmers just because
I hate
of that. And they ended up causing a famine for themselves.
And if I recall, recently they're having us close down our nuclear power plants in California because of the dumb environmentalists.
What the fuck? That's one of the cleaner energy sources. Come on. Anyway.
Yeah.
Now, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would put us back in the Paris Climate Accord. They'd impose the Green New Deal, which would crush American energy, would increase the energy costs of American families in their homes, and literally would crush American jobs. And President Trump and I believe that the progress that we have made in a cleaner environment has been happening precisely because we have a strong free market economy. You know, what's remarkable is the United States—
Not really, but I digress.
—has reduced CO2 more than the countries that are still in the Paris Climate Accord, but we've done it through innovation, and we've done it through natural gas and fracking, which, Senator, the American people can go look at the record. I know Joe Biden says otherwise now, as you do, but the both of you repeatedly committed to abolishing fossil fuel and banning fracking. And so by creating the kind of American innovation, we're actually—
Let's see how she addresses this.
steering toward a stronger and better environment.
I
With
wish you
regard to
would mention
wildfires,
nuclear power.
President Trump and I believe that forest management has to be front and center, and even Governor Gavin Newsom from your state has agreed we've got to work on forest management. And with regard to hurricanes, the National Oceanic Administration tells us that actually as difficult as they are,
Thank you, Vice President.
there are no more hurricanes today than there were 100 years ago.
Thank you.
But many of the climate alarmists
President Pence,
use
I'm sorry, your time
hurricanes
is
and
up.
wildfires to try and
Thank
sell
you,
the
Vice
bill of
President
goods
Pence.
of a Green
Come
New
on,
Deal,
Pence,
and
cut
President
it,
Trump and I
cut
will
it.
always put
Thank you,
American
Vice
jobs and
President
American
Pence.
workers first.
He just keeps on talking way too much over his own time. I mean, Harris is not innocent of that herself, but it seems that Pence is just doing that even more so as far as going overtime goes.
He's a really good debater, I heard.
I mean, he's at least smooth and whatnot, but I don't know if he's that strong of a debater. But we'll see how she responds to what he said in regards of banning fracking and whatnot.
Senator Harris, as the Vice President mentioned, you co-sponsored the Green New Deal in Congress. But Vice President Biden said in last week's debate that he does not support the Green New Deal. But if you look at the Biden-Harris campaign website, it describes the Green New Deal as a crucial framework. What exactly would be the stance of a Biden-Harris administration toward the Green New Deal? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Sure. So first of all, I will repeat, and the American people know, that Joe Biden will not ban fracking. That is a fact. That is a fact.
I am going to definitely go looking back on a clip of Joe Biden saying that, because you know what, I don't trust her. I really don't. Like, Joe Biden outright freaking lied about him not saying, calling the military stupid bastards. And by that same extent, I say I have to call bullshit about her saying that Biden has denied or that Biden is not going to ban fracking. But I'll have to look at that at some other time. Anyways.
I will repeat that Joe Biden has been very clear that he thinks about growing jobs, which is why he will not increase taxes for anyone who makes less than $400,000 a year. Joe Biden's economic plan, Moody's, which is a reputable Wall Street firm, has said will create 7 million more jobs than Donald Trump's. And part of those jobs that will be created by Joe Biden are going to be about clean energy and renewable energy. Because you see, Joe understands that the west coast of our country is burning, including my home state of California. Joe sees what is happening on the Gulf states, which are being battered by storms. Joe has seen and talked with the farmers in Iowa, whose entire crops have been destroyed because of floods. And so Joe believes, again, in science. I'll tell you something, Susan. I served, when I first got to the Senate, on the committee that's responsible for the environment. Do you know this administration took the word science off the website and then took the phrase climate change off the website? We have seen a pattern with this administration, which is they don't believe in science. And Joe's plan is about saying we're going to deal with it, but we're also going to create jobs. Donald Trump, when asked about the wildfires in California, and the question was, the science is telling us this, you know what Donald
You know what? This is a little 20-second clip. I'm just going to have us take a look at this very quickly.
No more drilling on federal lands. No more drilling, including offshore. No ability for the oil industry to continue to drill, period. Ends. Taking millions of automobiles off the road. No new fracking. Not another new coal plant will be built. We both agree that we have a new Green Deal.
Oof.
Okay, so there's a possibility that might be edited out of context, but all the same, people, there it is. There is a high likability, actually, not possibility, but likability. He's saying, yeah, just ban it. So Harris, I'm calling bull, and that was like during the primary against Bernie, so very recently. Now, yeah. Anyway,
Trump said, science doesn't know. So let's talk about who is prepared to lead our country over the course of the next 4 years on what is an existential threat to us as human beings. Joe is about saying we're going to invest that in renewable energy. It's going to be about the creation of millions of jobs. We will achieve net zero emissions by 2050, carbon neutral by 2035. Joe has a plan. This has been a lot of talk from the Trump administration, and really it has been to go backward instead of forward. We will also re-enter the climate agreement with pride.
Senator Harris just said that climate change is an existential threat. Vice President Pence, do you believe that climate change poses an existential threat?
As I said, Susan, the climate is changing. We'll follow the science. But once again, Senator Harris is denying the fact that they're going to raise taxes on every American. Joe Biden said twice in the debate last week that on day one he was going to repeal the Trump tax cuts. Those tax cuts delivered $2,000 in tax relief to the average family of four across America.
Just to be fair, I kind of call into question exactly of how true Pence is on that statement there. I mean, I'm not going to rule it out of the realm of possibility that Biden will possibly raise taxes on poor people as well as rich people, but I don't know, Biden, just to be fair. Or, excuse me, I don't know Pence. I called Mike Pence Biden. That's my bad.
And with regard to banning fracking, I just recommend that people look at the record. You yourself said repeatedly that you would ban fracking. You were the first Senate co-sponsor of the Green New Deal. And while Joe Biden denied the Green New Deal, Susan, thank you for pointing out, the Green New Deal is on their campaign website. And as USA Today said, it's essentially the same plan as you co-sponsored with AOC when she submitted it in the Senate. And you just heard the senator say that she's going to resubmit America to the Paris Climate Accord. Look, the American people have always cherished our environment. We'll continue to cherish it. We've made great progress reducing CO2 emissions through American innovation and the development of natural gas through fracking. We don't need a massive $2 trillion Green New Deal that would impose all new mandates on American businesses and American families.
Thank you.
Joe Biden wants us to...
Harris looks defeated right here. Looks desperate. Just look at that face, y'all. That does not look like a face of confidence towards what Pence is saying. Just saying.
Thank you, Vice
retrofit
President.
4 million
Thank you, Vice
American
President.
business buildings. It makes no sense. It will cost jobs. President Trump
Thank
is
you,
going to
Vice
put
President.
America first. He's going to put jobs first, and we're going to take care of our environment and follow the science.
Thank
But
you, Vice
you know, on
President.
the issue of jobs,
Senator Harris.
let's talk about that. The vice president earlier referred to, as part of what he thinks is an accomplishment, the president's trade war with China. You lost that trade war. You lost it. What ended up happening is because of a so-called trade war with China, America lost 300,000 manufacturing jobs. Farmers have experienced bankruptcy because of it. We are in a manufacturing recession because of it. And when we look at...
Okay, you had me until you mentioned manufacturing right there. I do not know of how true that is on the manufacturing front, but farmers front, I definitely agree on that. I've read it into the research years ago, mind you, but still about how Trump has hurt farmers.
I'm gonna have to just play a little bit of the thing is, I don't like trade wars, obviously, but something needs to be done with about China. Now, I understand it hurts the farmers and everything, but China is becoming an economic problem, and it's trying to force everyone to play its own game. Now, if it's too bad Trump wasn't able to get other countries to go in on this, which could have been greater influence on forcing China to play fairly in the economic world. But I'm just going to say it might be a necessity in the long term to have some kind of tariffs or something to convince China to play fairly.
Well, he's certainly handling it wrong. I mean, I think what should be done is that we free up our market. If we are really to tariff China, what I think has to be done first is we free up our own market and then tariff
I
China.
agree with that. We need to free up our own market as well to help with that.
And that's a big fat if, y'all, because I'm still a free marketeer, a free trader myself. So generally speaking, I'm still against tariffs. But at the same time, China is the most evil regime of our modern time. So there is an argument to be made that something has to be done. Not necessarily war, but maybe tariffs would be the most plausible way of doing that. Acting against China, I mean.
At where this administration has been, there are estimates that by the end of the term of this administration, they will have lost more jobs than almost any other presidential administration. And the American people know what I'm talking about. You know. I think about 20-year-olds. You know, we have a 20-year-old, a 20-something-year-old, who are coming out of high school and college right now, and you're wondering, is there going to be a job there for me? We're looking at people who are trying to figure out how they're going to pay rent by the end of the month. Almost half of American renters are worried about whether they're going to be able to pay rent by the end of the month. This is where the economy is in America right now, and it is because of the catastrophe and the failure of leadership of this administration.
Well, paying rent is because of the lockdown. That has nothing to do with Trump.
Yep.
Vice President Pence, let me give you just 15 seconds to respond because then I want to move on.
Well, I'd love to respond. Look, lost the trade war with China. Joe Biden never fought it. Joe Biden has been a cheerleader for communist China through over the last several decades. And again, Senator Harris, you're entitled to your opinion. You're not entitled to your own facts. When Joe Biden was vice president, we lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs, and President Obama said they were never coming back. He said we needed a magic wand to bring them back. In our first 3 years after we cut taxes,
you,
rolled
Vice
back regulation, unleashed American energy,
Oh,
this administration...
there she is again, trying to cut him off again. I mean, okay.
She did say, though, 15 seconds, and you've kind of sped it up, so I don't know how long that was.
Okay. Yeah. Never mind.
administration saw 500,000
Thank you, Vice
manufacturing
President
jobs
Pence.
created. And that's exactly the kind of growth we're going to continue to see as we bring our nation through
Thank you, Vice
this
President
pandemic.
Pence.
The Green New
I am going to say, okay, he's going over time, but the 15 seconds seems to be kind of unfair. At least give him 30 seconds.
I would say more like at least a minute.
Yeah, to respond to the 1 minute or 2 minute spiel that Harris gives.
Thank you,
Deal, your
Vice
massive new
President Pence.
mandate, your Paris Climate Accord. It's going to kill jobs this time, just like it killed jobs.
I just need to respond very briefly.
15
please.
seconds and
Thank
then
you.
we'll move
Thank you. Joe Biden is responsible for saving America's auto industry, and you voted against it. So let's set the record straight. Thank you.
I'd like to talk about China. We have as our next topic.
Really? Joe Biden saved it? How did he save it? I want more specifics. Like if it... Okay. Here's my problem with these past two debates. Is that people keep on pinning all the stuff that happened underneath Obama's watch onto Joe Biden as far as who is responsible. I don't think that is like very good measuring of a person's record as far as what they've done politically speaking, because the vice president has hardly any power aside from being a figurehead and occasionally voting in the Senate when there's like a deadlock tie vote in the Senate. Outside of that, the vice president cannot really do anything legislatively. So the fact that both Joe Biden and Harris right now keeps on pinning, or at least I think that's what Harris is getting at as far as the motor industry, the automobile industry goes, is that whatever happened under Obama, that was also because of Biden, not just because of Obama. It's just a little bit ridiculous to me that people go doing that, but yeah.
We have no more complicated or consequential foreign relationship than the one with China. It is a huge market for American agricultural goods. It's a potential partner in dealing with climate change in North Korea. And in a video tonight, President Trump again blamed it for the coronavirus, saying China will pay. Vice President Pence, how would you describe our fundamental relationship with China? Competitors, adversaries, enemies? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Susan. Well, before I leave that, let me speak to voting records if I can. You know, everybody knows that NAFTA cost literally thousands of American factories to close. We saw automotive jobs go south of the border. President Trump fought to renegotiate NAFTA. And the United States, Mexico, Canada agreement is now the law of the land. American people deserve to know Senator Kamala Harris was one of only 10 members of the Senate to vote against the USMCA. It was a huge win for American auto workers. It was a huge win for American farmers, especially dairy in the upper Midwest. But Senator, you said it didn't go far enough on climate change, that you put your radical environmental agenda ahead of American auto workers and ahead of American jobs. I think the American people deserve to know that. It's probably why Newsweek magazine said that Kamala Harris was the most liberal member of the United States Senate in 2019, more liberal than Bernie Sanders, more liberal than any of the others in the United States Senate. So now with regard to China, look, Susan, first and foremost, China is to blame for the coronavirus. And President Trump is not happy about it. He's made that very clear, made it clear again today. China and the World Health Organization did not play straight with the American people. They did not let our personnel into China to get information on the coronavirus until the middle of February. Fortunately, President Trump, in dealing with China from the outset of this administration, standing up to China that had been taking advantage of America for decades in the wake of Joe Biden's cheerleading for China, President Trump made that decision before the end of January to suspend all travel from China. And again, the American people deserve to know Joe Biden opposed President Trump's decision to suspend all travel from China. He said it was hysterical. He said it was
Thank you, Vice
xenophobic.
President Pence.
But President Trump has stood up to China. We're going to continue to stand strong.
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
We want to improve the relationship, but we're going to level the playing field. And we're going to hold
Vice President
China
Pence.
accountable for what they did to America with the coronavirus.
Thank you. Senator Harris, let me
I
ask
think
you
that's a
this.
good response he did.
It was minus going overtime. It was all right.
Question that I asked the Vice President. How would you describe our fundamental relationship with China? Are we competitors, adversaries, enemies? You'll have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Susan, the Trump administration's
This'll be
perspective and approach to China has resulted in the loss of American lives, American jobs, and America's standing.
That's not exactly the question, but maybe, hopefully, she'll eventually get around to answering it.
There's a weird obsession that President Trump has had with getting rid of whatever accomplishment was achieved by President Obama and Vice President Biden. For example, they created within the White House.
What accomplishments with China? I don't even remember any claims, much less anything factual, as far as what good Obama has done on the front of China.
An office that basically was responsible for monitoring pandemics. They got rid of it.
Not true.
There was a team of disease experts that President Obama and
This isn't about the pandemic right now. This is about U.S.-China relations.
Vice President Biden dispatched to China to monitor what is now predictable and what might happen. They pulled them out. We now are looking at 210,000 Americans who have lost their lives. Let's look at the job situation. We mentioned before the trade deal, the trade war, they wanted to call it, with China. It resulted in the loss of over 300 manufacturing jobs and a manufacturing recession, and the American consumer paying thousands of dollars more.
Is China our enemy, though? That's the question.
More for goods because of that failed war that they called it. Then let's talk about standing. Pew, a reputable research firm, has done an analysis that shows that leaders of all of our formerly allied countries have now decided that they hold in greater esteem and respect Xi Jinping, the head of the Chinese Communist Party, than they do Donald Trump, the president.
Well, then they're idiots.
That's because they're. Well, it's also because they are in the pockets of China. So, like it, for example, in Germany, the people in Germany don't want. They hate China. The citizens of Germany hate China, but I think it was the Chancellor, Angela Merkel, loves to have the relations with China, wants Germany to continue to be economically involved with China. However, the people hate China, and all like the major politicians within Europe are in the pockets of China. So it's to be expected they would say some bullcrap like that.
I just want to say very quickly that I do not give a flying rant. I don't give a flying fuck about what the relations of what they think about Xi Jinping as compared to Trump. I really don't, Kamala.
Of the United States, the commander-in-chief of the United States. This is where we are today because of a failure of leadership by this administration.
Senator Harris, we've seen changes in the role of the United States in terms of global leadership over the past 4 years. And of course, times do change. What's your definition? We've seen strains with China, of course, as the Vice President mentioned. We've seen strains with our traditional allies in NATO and elsewhere. What is your definition of the role of American leadership in 2020?
So, Joe is, I love talking with Joe about a lot of these issues. And, Joe, I think he said it quite well. He says, foreign policy, it might sound complicated, but really it's relationships. So just think about it as relationships. And so we know this in our personal and professional relationships. You got to keep your word to your friends. You got to be loyal to your friends. People who've stood with you, got to stand with them. You got to know who your adversaries are and keep them in check. But what we have seen with Donald Trump is that he has betrayed our friends and embraced dictators around the world. Let's take, for example, Russia. So Russia, I serve on the Intelligence Committee of the United States Senate. America's intelligence community told us Russia interfered in the election of the President of the United States in 2016 and is playing in 2020. Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, said the same. But Donald Trump, the commander-in-chief of the United States of America, prefers to take the word of Vladimir Putin over the word of the American intelligence community. You look at our friends at NATO. He has walked away from agreements. You can look at the Iran nuclear deal, which now has put us in a position where we are less safe because they are building up what might end up being a significant nuclear arsenal. We were in that deal, guys. We were in the Iran nuclear deal with friends, with allies around the country. And because of Donald Trump's unilateral approach to foreign policy, coupled with his isolationism, he pulled us out and has made America less safe. So, Susan, it's about
isolationism. You're using that word a little bit too flagrantly right there. I mean, it's not like he's done like a complete pullback of the military and so forth, Harris. Oh, God. You're really devaluing the term of isolationism when you apply that to Trump. I also want to say that the Iran nuclear deal is bullcrap. So I think him pulling out of it was a good thing. Mostly because Iran is no friend of ours, and they should not be getting a cent from us. And that's essentially what was done formally by Obama in the past, giving back money and so forth. Anyway.
Relationships. And the thing that has always been part of the strength of our nation, in addition to our great military, has been that we keep our word. But Donald Trump doesn't understand that because he doesn't understand what it means to be honest.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, let me give you a chance to respond.
Well, thank you. President Trump kept his word when we moved the American embassy to Jerusalem, the capital of the state of Israel. When Joe Biden was vice president, they promised to do that, and they never did. We've stood strong with our allies, but we've been demanding. NATO is now contributing more to our common defense than ever before, thanks to President Trump's leadership. We've strengthened our alliances across the Asia-Pacific, and we've stood strong against those who would do us harm. When President Trump came into office, ISIS had captured an area of the Middle East the size of Pennsylvania. But President Trump unleashed the American military, and our armed forces destroyed the ISIS caliphate and took down their leader al-Baghdadi without one American casualty. Al-Baghdadi was responsible for the death of thousands.
I thought that was already done under Obama right before Trump had got inaugurated. Correct me, am I wrong in that, Rash? That al-Baghdadi...
I thought I remember ISIS being defeated by... maybe, I don't know, I can't remember.
Well, not ISIS organization, because, terrorist cell. Like, they're still alive and kicking, even after Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi was killed. But I just remember that al-Baghdadi was killed before Trump had got inaugurated, rather than after. So, I have to call bullshit, Pence. I have to call bullshit.
But notably, America's hearts today are with the family of
I mean, I don't like Obama. I really don't. But let's be truthful here.
Kayla Mueller, her parents of which are here with us tonight in Salt Lake City. Today, 2 of the ISIS killers responsible for Kayla Mueller's murder were brought to justice in the United States. Jihadi John was killed on the battlefield along with the other Beetle. The reality is that when Joe Biden was vice president, we had an opportunity to save Kayla Mueller. It breaks my heart to reflect on it, but the military came into the Oval Office, presented a plan. They said they knew where Kayla was. Baghdadi had held her for 18 months, abused her mercilessly before they killed her. But when Joe Biden was vice president, they hesitated for a month. And when armed forces finally went in, it was clear she'd been moved 2 days earlier. And her family says with a heart that broke the heart of every American that if President Donald Trump had been president, they believe Kayla would be alive today.
Thank you, Vice
Look,
President.
we destroyed the ISIS caliphate.
Well, okay. I would like to make a slight retraction. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi died October 27, 2019, or at least that's according to what I quickly searched up here on Bing. So,
Well, yeah, I found it on Wikipedia saying that he died in 2019.
yeah, I'm Bing, Wikipedia. Well, yeah. So I want to. I could have sworn that it was right before that Trump had got inaugurated.
Well, I know there
I guess I was
was
wrong.
someone who, a terrorist that was killed, I think, just right after Trump was inaugurated, I think, a terrorist group or a terrorist, I think it was right after he got inaugurated.
I mean, unless I'm thinking of a different al-Baghdadi, because I do know that al-Baghdadi, oddly enough, is a fairly common name throughout the leadership of ISIS, which is funny, but I digress anyways. But yeah, retraction on my part. It's not really bullshit what Pence said.
You talk about re-entering the Iran nuclear deal. I mean, the last administration transferred $1.8 billion to the leading state sponsor
Thank you, Vice
of
President
terrorism.
Pence.
President Donald Trump got us out of the deal.
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
And when Qasem Soleimani was traveling to Baghdad
Thank you,
to do
Vice President
harm to
Pence.
Americans, President Donald Trump took
Thank you,
him
Vice
out.
President Pence.
And America is safer, our allies are safer, and the American people know President Donald Trump will never
Thank you,
hesitate
Vice President
to take
Pence.
action.
I would like to give
This is disastrous, Pence. How much you go speaking over your time? Like, it's fair. It's all fair enough and well and good that, like, in a response that you are given, and the moderator wants to cut you off or give you such a short amount of time, you might have a bit of a case to make as to say that is justified as far as going over time goes. But when you're just given an opening statement of 2 minutes or something, please just remain within your time. It's just not a good look, Mike.
Senator Harris a chance to respond, but not at such great length because, of course, there are other topics we want to talk about.
But I would like equal time.
Yes,
Thank you.
please go ahead.
First of all, to the Mueller family, I know about your daughter's case, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. What happened to her is awful, and it should have never happened. And I know Joe feels the same way. And I know that President Obama feels the same way. But you mentioned Soleimani. Let's start there. So after the strike on Soleimani, there was a counter strike on our troops in Iraq. And they suffered serious brain injuries. And do you know what Donald Trump dismissed them as? Headaches. And this is about a pattern of Donald Trump's, where he has referred to our men who are serving in our military as suckers and losers. Donald Trump, who went to Arlington Cemetery and stood above the graves of our fallen heroes and said, what's in it for them? Because, of course, he only thinks about what's in it for him. Let's take what he said about John McCain, a great American hero. And Donald Trump says...
You're about to
John McCain's own unit have spoken out against John McCain. They don't like John McCain.
Oh, damn. I didn't know about that much.
Yeah, they say his own unit has said he's a coward.
Oh. Wasn't he, like, tortured at one point during Vietnam?
Allegedly, according to his biography, but you can't really trust that because that's kind of, really biased.
Alright.
But yeah, according to his biography, he was tortured, at least. As for other sources, don't know.
He doesn't deserve to be called a hero because he was a prisoner of war. And this is very important when you want to talk about who is the current commander-in-chief and what they care about and what they don't care about. Public reporting that Russia had bounties on the heads of American soldiers. And you know what a bounty is? It's somebody puts a price on your head and they will pay it if you are killed. And Donald Trump had talked at least 6 times to Vladimir Putin and never brought up the subject. Joe Biden would never do that.
Thank you.
But Joe Biden would hold Russia to account for any threat to our nation's security or to our troops who are sacrificing their lives for the sake of our democracy and our safety.
Thank you, Senator Harris. This is such an important
Well,
issue.
that's
We have other
bull.
important-
What was bull? I was looking at something else here.
Well, the whole thing about talking back to Russia with, Russia invaded some places under Obama administration, and Obama really did nothing. If we were going to say that the administration did anything, they really weren't hard or anything like of the sort on Russia. In fact, if anything, they were actually more friendly to Russia.
I gotcha. So, I want to say that in regards to the whole Soleimani incident, that Trump's response to Soleimani specifically was completely justified. Everybody knows this. I've gone on record saying that multiple times, that the response of killing Soleimani after that U.S. embassy was struck by the Iranian forces, or at least Iranian-backed forces anyways, that was completely justified. I said that in the earlier part of this year and occasionally throughout other parts after that. But in response to the head injury part, that doesn't have hardly a weigh-in as far as responding to Soleimani, but Trump should have... Trump was being kind of insensitive by weighing it down, and I did just fact check that on Bing, like very quickly. I'm not seeing anything to the opposite of that claim, that he was just watering down the or muddying up of what was actually done. That they were head injuries as opposed to just freaking headaches. Anyways.
Issues as well, and
Susan,
I want to make sure we have a chance
I really
to
have
talk
to respond
about.
to that. Look, she has
15 seconds because
Well, I gotta
we're
have
trying
more
to
than
keep.
that. Look,
well, I'm sorry, Vice President, but you've had more time than she's had so far.
Slanders against President Donald Trump regarding men
Yeah, a lot of that being because that he goes overtime too much.
and women of our armed forces are absurd.
I'm sorry, Vice
My
President
son is a
Pence.
captain in the United
Yes.
States Marine Corps. My son-in-law is deployed in the United States Navy. I can assure all of you, with sons and daughters serving in our military, President Donald Trump not only respects but reveres all of those who serve in our armed forces, and any suggestion otherwise is ridiculous.
But
Let
thank
me
you,
also
Vice
say,
President Pence.
the
Vice
American
President
people
Pence,
deserve, Susan,
Vice
the American
President
people
Pence, I
deserve to
didn't,
know.
Vice President Pence, I did not,
that-
excuse me,
Susan, the
I did
American
not
people
create
deserve
the
to know
rules for tonight.
Joe Biden,
Your campaigns agreed to the rules for tonight's debate with the Commission on Presidential Debates. I'm here to enforce them, which involves moving from one topic to another, giving roughly equal time to both of you,
right
which is what I'm trying very hard to do.
right ahead.
So I want to go ahead and move to the next topic, which is an important one, as the last topic was, and that is the Supreme Court. On Monday, the Senate Judiciary Committee is scheduled to open hearings on Amy Coney Barrett's nomination to the Supreme Court. Senator Harris, you'll be there as a member of the committee. Her confirmation would cement the court's conservative majority and make it likely.
What's your opinion on who you think is winning so far, Rash, of what you've heard?
Well, as far as the arguments I think have been made, I think Pence has done predominantly better.
I think there is like a whole lot of arguments that work in Pence's favor, but on the optics side of thing, Kamala Harris does look a whole lot better. But I do not know if there's like enough hard points that Pence is saying in response, because I'm going to say Harris is being more substantive this time than Biden was during the first debate. So she has that going for her. That's my opinion. What you say?
I think the thing is that I don't think in this case, I don't think the interruptions are so outrageous that they would hurt Pence so much in this debate and how he's appearing to people. That's my thing. Although we'll have to wait and see for absolute certainty. But I think overall Pence is winning or has won this debate.
I don't know. I think it's a tie at best, if not Harris is coming out by the skin of her teeth. But that's just me, anyways.
Open to more abortion restrictions, even to overturning the landmark Roe v. Wade ruling. Access to abortion would then be up to the states. Vice President Pence, you're the former governor of Indiana. If Roe v. Wade is overturned, what would you want Indiana to do? Would you want your home state to ban all abortions? You have 2 minutes, uninterrupted.
Well, thank you for the question, but I'll use a little bit of my time to respond to that very important issue before. The American people deserve to know Qasem Soleimani, the Iranian general, was responsible for the death of hundreds of American service members. When the opportunity came, we saw him headed to Baghdad to kill more Americans. President Trump didn't hesitate, and Qasem Soleimani is gone. But you deserve to know that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris actually criticized the decision to take out Qasem Soleimani. It's really inexplicable, but with regard to Joe Biden, it's explainable. Because history records that Joe Biden actually opposed the raid against Osama bin Laden. It's absolutely essential that we have a commander-in-chief who will not hesitate to act to protect American lives and to protect American service members, and that's what you have.
I think you already said enough on the front of that, Pence. Get to the actual current question right now instead of rewinding for this long.
Having President Donald Trump. Now, with regard to the Supreme Court of the United States, let me say President Trump and I could not be more enthusiastic about the opportunity to see Judge Amy Coney Barrett become Justice Amy Coney Barrett.
Okay, here we go.
She's a brilliant woman, and she will bring a lifetime of experience and a sizable American family to the Supreme Court of the United States. And our hope is, in the hearing next week, unlike Justice Kavanaugh received with treatment from you and others, we hope she gets a fair hearing. And we particularly hope that we don't see the kind of attacks on her Christian faith that we saw before. I mean, the Democrat chairman of the Judiciary Committee before, when Judge Barrett was being confirmed for the Court of Appeals, expressed concern that the dogma of her faith lived loudly in her. Dick Durbin of Illinois said that it was a concern. Senator, I know one of our judicial nominees you actually attacked because they were a member of the Catholic Knights of Columbus, just because the Knights of Columbus holds pro-life views. And
Thank you,
views.
thank you, Vice President Pence.
So
Your
my
time
hope
is
is
up.
that when the hearing takes place,
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
that Judge Amy Coney Barrett will be respected,
Thank you,
treated
Vice President
respectfully,
Pence.
voted and confirmed
Thank
to the
you.
Supreme Court of the United States.
Senator Harris,
By the way, verified news. I just got the notification. Thanks a lot for subscribing to the channel.
you're the senator from and former Attorney General of California, so let me ask you a parallel question to the one I posed to the Vice President. If Roe v. Wade is overturned, what would you want California to do? Would you want your home state to enact no restrictions on access to abortion? And you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Thank you, Susan. First of all, Joe Biden and I are both people of faith, and it's insulting to suggest that we would knock anyone for their faith. And in fact, Joe, if elected, will be only the second.
It's not past Democrats to do that. I mean, oh god. Maybe you can say that he's assuming a little bit too much, but it's not really outside of the realm of possibility. I still remember that Bernie Sanders was doing that to a, what was it? It was some committee member that Trump was one to appoint. Might have been like a financial advisor of some sort. I don't know. But you remember what I'm talking about, right, Rash? When he was doing a litmus test to that guy. And, oh, your faith believes that Jews like me are going to burn in hell and people of other non-Christian beliefs? You remember that, right?
I don't really remember that, but
okay.
I'll take your word for it.
Well, it is a good video by Micah Curtis right after that, when that issue was like still fresh in early 2017. But yeah, it's not outside the realm of possibility for Democrats to do religious litmus tests, but yeah, I digress.
Second, practicing Catholic as President of the United States.
That doesn't mean jack. That doesn't mean jack. I mean, suppose quote-unquote Christian Democrats go attacking other Christians all the time. Christian Republicans all the time. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
On the issue of this nomination, Joe and I are very clear, as are the majority of the American people. We are 27 days before the decision about who will be the next president of the United States. And before, when this conversation has come up, it's been about election year or election time. We're literally in an election. Over 4 million people have voted. People are in the process of voting right now. And so Joe has been very clear, as the American people are. Let the American people fill that seat in the White House, and then we'll fill that seat on the United States Supreme Court. And to your point, Susan, the issues before us couldn't be more serious. There's the issue of choice, and I will always fight for a woman's right to make a decision about her own body. It should be her decision and not that of Donald Trump and the Vice President, Michael Pence. But let's also look at what else is before the court.
It shouldn't be up to them to determine what is done with the body of the unborn either.
Affordable Care Act, like literally in the midst of a public health pandemic, when over 210,000 people have died and 7 million people probably have what will be in the future considered a pre-existing condition because you contracted the virus. Donald Trump is in court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. And I said it before, and it bears repeating. This means that there will be no more protections if they win for people with pre-existing conditions. This means that over 20 million people will lose your coverage. It means that if you're under the age of 26, you can't stay on your parents' coverage anymore. And here's the thing. The contrast couldn't be more clear. They're trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. Joe Biden is saying, let's expand coverage. Let's give you a choice.
I really doubt that all the 20 million who were like covered allegedly because of Obamacare are going to just immediately lose their healthcare coverage. And even if their healthcare coverage goes away, was it because of their own consent, of their own volition, that they wanted to just get rid of their healthcare? Oh, it's out of my budget and I don't need it, so I'm just going to get rid of it. They're going to factor in that person as one of the people that were supposedly hurt by the repeal of the repealing of Obamacare. That is, if Obamacare was repealed.
Well, like, for example, the people without health care, they tried to say there's so many people in the U.S. without health care. The majority of those people were young people who did not want health care because they felt they didn't need it.
Yeah, precisely. And just this point that is consistently made that, oh, Obamacare is, if it's repealed, you're going to just immediately see all these people, all the people that were covered ever since the passing of Obamacare lose their coverage. It's just fear-mongering, I get the feeling.
Choice of a public option or private coverage. Let's bring down premiums.
Senator
Let's
Harris.
lower Medicare eligibility to 60.
Thank you, Senator.
That's true
Harris.
leadership.
You know, you mentioned earlier, Vice President Pence, that the president was committed to maintaining protections for people with pre-existing conditions. But you do have this court case that you are supporting, your administration is supporting, that would strike down the Affordable Care Act. The president says, President Trump says that he's going to protect people with pre-existing conditions, but he has not explained.
But that they're also for replacing Obamacare. Not that I'm saying that I'm defending them on the idea of replacing Obamacare, because I'm for just a straight up repeal, no replacement of Obamacare. But just to like argue devil's advocate and to keep things like in the realm of truth, keep as a reminder, they want to replace it with like Trump Care or some other healthcare plan.
How he would do that. And that was one of the toughest nuts to crack when they were passing the Affordable Care Act. So tell us specifically, how would your administration protect Americans with pre-existing conditions to have access to affordable insurance if the Affordable Care Act is struck down?
Well, thank you, Susan. But let me just say, addressing your very first question, I couldn't be more proud to serve as vice president to a president who stands without apology for the sanctity of human life. I'm pro-life. I don't apologize for it. And this is another one of those cases where there's such a dramatic contrast. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris support taxpayer funding of abortion all the way up to the moment of birth, late-term abortion. They want to increase funding to Planned Parenthood of America. Now, for our part, I would never presume how Judge Amy Coney Barrett would rule on the Supreme Court of the United States, but we'll continue to stand strong for the right to life. When you speak about the Supreme Court, though, I think the American people really deserve an answer, Senator Harris. Are you and Joe Biden going to pack the court if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed? I mean, there have been 29 vacancies on the Supreme Court.
You know what? Pence is always consistently a subject behind as far as what is supposed to be the issue currently of the debate. I have to take a look back as to how much of that is Pence's own fault, or if that's the moderators and the debate format's fault.
Well, he did lose one comment section, remember, that he lost because either the debater did it the moderator did it purposely or accidentally did not get from a response area to respond to Kamala Harris, remember?
Right. One of those earlier points, I remember it specifically happening in the earlier parts of the debate. I just can't remember precisely what point it was.
Mm-hmm.
Dang it, it's on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, let's move on.
During presidential election years, from George Washington to Barack Obama, presidents have nominated in all 29 cases. But your party is actually openly advocating adding seats to the Supreme Court, which has had 9 seats for 150 years, if you don't get your way. This is a classic case of if you can't win by the rules, you're going to change the rules.
Jumping in and out, in and out. Hey, Aspie.
Hey, sorry. I just finished up watching the debate, and I think as so far I can say that The Fly is the star of the show tonight. Will be the star of the show tonight. Did you not notice The Fly?
No, I did not.
I did hear some kind of noise.
There was a fly in his hair.
So, just FYI, some of that noise might be me eating my pork rinds here. Rash.
No, it sounded more like a buzz of some sort.
Maybe. Anyways, moving on.
rules. Now, you've refused to answer the question. Joe Biden has refused to answer the question. So I think the American people would really like to know, if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed at the Supreme Court of the United States, are you and Joe Biden, if somehow you win this election, going to pack the Supreme Court to get your way?
Good question. Let's see if she addresses it.
I'm so glad we went through a little history lesson. Let's do that a little more. In 1864.
Well, I'd like you to answer the question.
Mr.
Yes,
Vice President, I'm
please.
speaking. I'm speaking. Okay. In 1864, one of the, I think, political heroes, certainly the president,
What a smug bitch indeed.
Yeah, all the feminists are already going, oh my gosh, she's so empowered. She stood up to the evil white male. And I'm just like, I literally was seeing that on there. It was so cringeworthy.
I assume if you also, Mr. Vice President, is Abraham Lincoln. Mm-hmm. Abraham Lincoln was up for re-election. And it was 27 days before the election. And a seat became open on the United States Supreme Court. Abraham Lincoln's party was in charge not only of the White House, but the Senate. But Honest Abe said it's not the right thing to do. The American people deserve to make the decision about who will be the next president of the United States. And then that person can select who will serve for a lifetime on the highest court.
So I presume that she actually believes in the rhetoric that McConnell had espoused back in 2016, and that McConnell is kind of retracting now in 2020. Okay. Good for her. But all the same, I mean, even if that might be even if it's such a virtuous rule of thumb as far as how that SCOTUS appointee should go, it still doesn't nullify the fact that Trump ultimately does have constitutional authority to do so.
Yeah.
Nominate
and he
somebody
should
to
do
the
it,
SCOTUS.
and he should do it too, because I have a bad feeling that Biden is going to win this election. So
I think Biden is probably going to win the election. That's why I do think they should continue on. Not only constitutionally, it makes more sense, but that since he's probably going to lose, I feel it would be best to do it now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Of our land. And so Joe and I are very clear. The American people are voting right now, and it should be their decision about who will serve on this most important body for a lifetime.
Thank you,
And
Senator
the
Harris.
people, Susan, are voting right now. They'd like to know if you and Joe Biden are going to pack the Supreme Court if you don't get your way in this nomination.
Let's talk about
You
packing.
once
Come
again
on.
gave a non-answer.
Oh gosh, she's going to completely avoid it. And she's so smug about her evading of that question too. This is
yeah.
This is
She really was.
disgusting.
Sir, Joe Biden gave a non-answer.
Trying to answer you
The American
now.
people deserve a straight answer.
Well, okay, go on then, and Pence, be quiet so that she can.
And if you haven't figured it out yet, the straight answer is they are going to pack the Supreme Court if they somehow win this election. And I got to tell you, people across this country, if you cherish our Supreme Court, if you cherish the separation of powers, you need to reject the Biden-Harris ticket. Come November the 3rd, re-elect President Donald Trump, and we'll stand by that separation of powers in a 9-seat Supreme Court.
Yeah, let's talk about packing the court then. Let's talk about the
Please.
fact. Yeah, I'm about to. So
Here we go.
The Trump-Pence administration has been, because I sit on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Susan, as you mentioned, and I've witnessed the appointments for lifetime appointments to the federal courts, district courts, courts of appeal. People who are purely ideological, people who have been reviewed by legal professional organizations and found to have been not competent, are substandard. And do you know that of the 50 people who President Trump appointed to the Court of Appeals
And
for
that's
lifetime,
not politically motivated at all.
Mm-hmm. And she's not getting to answering the question of whether or not to pack SCOTUS.
appointments, not one is black? This is what they've been doing. You want to
Wait. Did she really say
what?
not one? Did she really say that not one is black? Did she really pull that card?
appointed to the
You
Court of Appeals
didn't nominate
Wait,
a
wait,
black man.
shh,
You
shh,
must
shh.
be a racist.
Aspie, wait.
for lifetime appointments, not one is black?
Non-issue. Non-issue.
Well, not only that, but it's kind of harder to appoint a right-wing person who is black because, like, 90% of the black population are Democrat. So,
Right, and really, talk about completely throwing MLK's quote out the fucking window. Believing that people should be judged by the contents of the character, not the color of their skin. She is doing that. She's doing completely the opposite of that quote. Wow.
This is what they've been doing. You want to talk about packing a court? Let's have that discussion.
All right, thank you, Senator. Let's.
You did not answer as to whether or not that you're actually going to do that. You just decided to deflect and say, "Oh, but Trump, Orange Man bad." Eesh.
Go on and talk about the issue of racial justice.
I just want the record to reflect she never answered the question. So maybe the next debate, Joe Biden will answer the question. But I think the American people know the answer.
Thank you, Vice President.
Yeah, I do. I have a feeling that I do. I mean, it's more theory than anything else, but I think it's a very plausible and firm, very reasonable theory.
In March, Breonna Taylor, a 26-year-old emergency room technician in Louisville, was shot and killed after police officers executing a search warrant in a narcotics investigation broke into her apartment. The police said they identified themselves. Taylor's boyfriend said he didn't hear them do that. He used a gun registered to him to fire a shot, which wounded an officer. The officers then fired more than 20 rounds into the apartment. They say they were acting in self-defense. None of them have been indicted in connection with her death. Senator Harris, in the case...
So she's bringing up the new information that's become so widespread about Breonna Taylor, not just playing the narrative that, you know, there was absolutely no reason or anything that is on the side of the cops, and absolutely all of it was on the side of Taylor as far as what went down in that situation. But yeah, so kudos to her, I guess, to the moderator, I guess, but let's listen more.
Breonna Taylor, was justice done? You have 2 minutes.
I don't believe so, and I've talked with Breonna's mother, Tamika Palmer, and her family deserves justice. She was a beautiful young woman. She had as her life goal to become a nurse, and she wanted to become an EMT to first learn what's going on out on the street, so she could then become a nurse and save lives. And her life was taken, unjustifiably and tragically and violently. And it brings me to, you know, the 8 minutes and 46 seconds that America witnessed.
That's why you don't hang out with the wrong people.
Mm-hmm. I will say that there is from what I know of the story, like I haven't fully read into it. It's more of what I've generally heard other people in their research of the subject. But if shooting in response and killing or injuring specifically the shooter himself, you know, the boyfriend of Breonna Taylor, there's reason enough to be doing that, but because they ended up doing collateral damage and killing a completely innocent person who did nothing in response to the police, did no action to the police at all. I don't know. I think there might still stand to reason that there should be like some punishment to the officers. I'm not suggesting necessarily life in jail, much less death penalty, but still. What you were saying, Rash?
Well, I was going to say I've been listening to some more expert opinions on this, and according to them, that it's really was the main fault seems to be the law itself, not the police, except for one police officer who went behind, I think I guess somewhere part of the building or something, I don't know what it was, and shot into another apartment complex or something. That was the only one police officer that was legally in the wrong, according to what they could see in the cases. And what the other officers did, though, nothing was wrong on their part, and nothing was wrong legally on the boyfriend of the girl, who on his part or the girl's part, in the sense of legality speaking. I would say the only part, though, that was at fault, I think, is two things. Well, actually, really one thing is I don't think the search warrant should have been done at night. I think that's a terrible thing to do.
Well, I go so far to say that no-knock raid should be repealed entirely.
Well, yeah, that too. But it wasn't a no-knock warrant.
Yeah,
well, they had a no-knock warrant. They had a no-knock warrant, but they did not fully act on that no-knock warrant. They decided to, of their own volition, level down as far as what their action was going to be. Yes,
they decided to announce themselves and to knock, despite having a no-knock warrant.
Despite of what they actually did, just for the precedent and the situation of the country as a whole, I think they should be repealed. You were saying, Aspie?
Well, yes, I agree.
You were saying, Aspie?
Yeah. I was going to say, I think even bounty hunters, when they go to a house, they're allowed to raid houses, but they are allowed to get warrants, but they have to, I think they always have to, knock first, so I don't really see how a no-knock warrant. Well, I could understand the reasoning why somebody
Bounty.
would why those would exist, but it's just I think it could cause more problems than what it would help. So I do think that.
Bounty hunters, are you talking about like a private sector contractor who gets hired by a local government to hunt down a criminal?
Technically, yes. They're mostly hired by bonds companies.
Well, anyways, I think the main problem, from what I could tell, what I've heard about the case, the main problem seems to be the fact this was done at night, and since they had just woken up, gotten down, they didn't hear that it was the police, so they assumed it was it was an intruder, and so the guy shot at the police shot back because he shot, so it's a fault in the law that I would say here mostly.
Yeah, it was a tragedy. It was, where there's some things, well, let me say it like this. There's nothing that, given the law and the circumstances, I don't really see anything that could have really prevented this, other than, them not, it was just a tragedy all around.
Well, I think the one thing that could have prevented it is if it was done at the daytime. When you're doing it at night, during middle of the night, at 12 a.m. or 1 a.m., when people are asleep, that's kind of a bad thing, I think, because some people are very heavy sleepers. For example, my mom, she slept through a freaking earthquake.
She was awake at the time of when that bullet started flying, though, wasn't she?
Yeah, yes, they were both awake by then. However, they did not hear the police saying that they were the cops, and they did not hear the knocking. I think it was at first. I think they started hearing the battering ram once they had gotten up and down.
It was just sort of a freak incident.
But anyway, we've went too long talking about the details themselves. We're going to continue on the actual debate.
Okay.
During which an American man was tortured and killed under the knee of an armed, uniformed police officer. And people around our country.
I think she's referring to George Floyd right there, which...
Wasn't the knee on the back of the neck, not the side that could...
Well, either way, I mean, it was just still malpractice on Derek Chauvin's part. I mean, even if people want to say that drugs got into his system, it was still mistreatment by Derek Chauvin. And
well, yes, it was mistreatment. However, with the new evidence and everything, we cannot say that it
was murder.
We definitely cannot say it was murder. The most you could ever have said was manslaughter or something, and that was my problem. Unintentional manslaughter or whatever.
And that was my problem when I was debating this with a lot of people in the DMs. I kept saying to people, "Hey, you need to be a little bit more given all this new evidence that's coming up, you can't, I don't think it's smart that they called it second-degree murder, and they would act as if I was defending Derek Chauvin's actions, which I was not. I was saying that you're not going to get murder 2, and that when they upped it up from murder 3 to murder 2, I was like, oh god, they've just screwed themselves hard. And I saw Facebook posts of people saying, don't ever say protesting doesn't work because we got them to up the charges, and I'm just like, you people are absolute morons. The fact that you didn't wait for extra evidence to come out and wait for
we don't want stuff. We don't want the charges to be too high, because if you start overcharging and start justifying overcharging people, that sets a bad precedent in of itself. And not to mention the fact that the police officers, if they're found to be overcharged, they get off completely scot-free rather than getting the actual justifiable charge. The actual sentence that they should have been given.
The proper sentence.
Yeah, and I watched the whole entire video, and it was all pretty professional up until the knee on the neck part, and I saw the whole, and I watched the entire video. You get thrown into a situation like that where they find a counterfeit $20 bill and nobody knows what's going on. Derek, George Floyd was, definitely not. The guy was highly delusional. He was obviously on some sort of drug. So yeah, it was just a whole. It was just a mixture of different things that just led to a very bad result.
I'm just wondering, why the fuck were the cashiers not checking to make sure that the $20 bill was a counterfeit before having to call the police saying, oh, this guy used a counterfeit $20 bill? I mean, another question is, did George Floyd even know that was a counterfeit bill? How do we not know that the counterfeit bill was given to him by someone else? And who knows how long down the line that the counterfeit bill was actually made and transferred knowingly by some other past owner of that $20 bill. So
but when they,
I do not think that a phone call on George Floyd is really justified, because we do not know whether or not that he was even being malicious on that part. I mean, the cashier should have checked beforehand before making the transfer official and denied denied transfer, finding out that it was counterfeit. Go on.
True. And also, there's an easy way to check if a bill's a counterfeit. There's usually, if you, I deliver pizza, so I know this from experience. You hold it up to a light. There's a little line that goes horizontally down the less wide part of the bill. So if you find that, if you hold it up to the light, there's also little rivets on the coat where the president is. If you rub that, you can feel the little divots in there. So it's easy to tell if a bill is counterfeit or not. So they probably looked at the bill really quickly just as he was walking out. They probably looked at it, and if you find a counterfeit bill, what you're told to do is to call the cops. Don't go after them yourselves. So it was just and obviously in the heat of a situation like that, there's really not a lot of time to think about stuff like that. All that stuff comes after the arrest and everything.
Hindsight's 2020.
Exactly.
And by the way, I also want to add very quickly that I wouldn't rule out intent on the part of Derek Chauvin as far as wanting to mistreat George Floyd, be it because he knows him, be it because he knows who the person is and had a past with the guy, or because he had a distaste for black people. Because from what I've researched, he's at least on edge, if not prejudice against black people. Chauvin is. So I don't know for what. Sorry, you asked me. What do you say?
I was gonna say I don't know if it's because how he was raised or if he had some sort of bad experience with a black suspect or something. Either way. Yeah.
But I'm not saying for absolute certain that it definitely was intentional, but I just think that there is reason to suspect that it might have been intentional, considering of how he did not like being a security guard for the nights at clubs of when that it was primarily black people nights at those clubs.
Of every race, of every age, of every gender, perfect strangers to each other, marched shoulder to shoulder, arm in arm, fighting for us to finally achieve that ideal of equal justice under law. And I was a part of those peaceful protests.
Yeah, at what expense? By burning down the businesses of people uninvolved and unresponsible for the injustices? Come on. Is he actually going to imply justification for those riots? If so, well then fuck her.
And what I was going to say is the sick part about the rioting and them burning down businesses is that business owners basically cannot defend their businesses. If a group of rioters start burning down or trying to rob your store, and you shoot them or you use lethal force to get them out, you're all of a sudden a murderer. And that is pretty. You can't. I don't know if castle doctrine applies to private businesses, but I'm not advocating for anything. I'm not encouraging anything.
I'm not saying that they should be outright killed, but if they are killed by a self-defending business owner, while they were in the process of looting and rioting against that business, well then I say, who gives a fuck? I think that business owners should defend their property in some form or manner. Not necessarily have to outright kill the looter or rioter, but if the looter or rioter does get killed in the process of them robbing, well, I say tough shit.
That's what I say too. If you get shot by a business owner and you were rioting and looting, well, Darwin's law. Natural selection is a thing, and you lost the hand. So tough luck. Enjoy hell. Anyway, let's get back to the get to the debate.
And I believe strongly that, first of all, we are never going to condone violence, but we always must fight for the values that we hold.
Don't give me all this charlatan type shit right here. Do you condemn the riots or not? That's what I am curious right now. Do you condemn or condone the riots themselves, Harris?
Hold dear, including the fight to achieve our ideals. And that's why Joe Biden and I have said on this subject, look, and I'm a former career prosecutor. I know what I'm talking about. Bad cops are bad for good cops. We need reform of our policing in America and our criminal justice system, which is why Joe and I will immediately ban chokeholds and carotid holds. George Floyd would be alive today if we did that. We will require a national registry for police officers who break the law. We will, on the issue of criminal justice reform, get rid of private prisons and cash bail, and we will decriminalize marijuana, and we will expunge the records of those who have been convicted of marijuana. This is a time for leadership on a tragic, tragic issue of unarmed black people in America.
Thank you, Senator Harris.
Now she's starting
Vice
to go
President, let me pose the same question
extensively
to
over
you.
her time.
In the case of Breonna Taylor, was justice done? You have 2 minutes, uninterrupted.
Well, our heart breaks for the loss of any innocent American life. And the family of Breonna Taylor has our sympathies. But I trust our justice system, a grand jury that refused the evidence. And it really is remarkable that as a former prosecutor, you would assume that an impaneled grand jury looking at all the evidence got it wrong. But you're entitled to your opinion, Senator. I think, look, and with regard to George Floyd, there's no excuse for what happened to George Floyd. Justice will be served. But there's also no excuse for the rioting and looting that followed. I mean, it really is astonishing.
Hear, hear.
Flora Westbrook is with us here tonight in Salt Lake City. Just a few weeks ago, I stood at what used to be her salon. Was burned to the ground by rioters and looters. And Flora is still trying to put her life back together. And I must tell you, this presumption that you hear consistently from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, that
how are you watching the debate with those thick-ass glasses?
Well, for one thing, I got the lights on as opposed to my past format with setting up these live streams. But it's not that dark, these sunglasses. I just do, SB. How about that for our answer? Anyway,
I see.
Anyway,
That's good.
moving on.
And that, as Joe Biden said, that he believes that law enforcement has an implicit bias against minorities is a great insult to the men and women who serve in law enforcement. And I want everyone to know who puts on the uniform of law enforcement every day that President Trump and I stand with you. And it is remarkable that when Senator Tim Scott tried to pass a police reform bill, brought together a group of Republicans and Democrats, Senator Harris, you got up and walked out of the room. And then you filibustered Senator Tim Scott's bill on the Senate floor that would have provided new accountability, new resources. But we don't have to choose between supporting law enforcement, improving public safety, and supporting our efforts.
There's the fly right there. That's on Pence's head that you were referring to earlier, SB.
Yeah, there it is, the fly.
But yeah, okay, yeah, this is getting to some of the juicier part. Let's listen to some more.
African American
Thank you,
neighbors
Vice
and all of our minorities. Under President Trump's leadership,
Thank you,
we'll
Vice President
always
Pence.
stand with law enforcement, and we'll do what we've done
Vice
from day
President Pence,
one, and
thank
that is
you. Your time
improve
is
the
up.
lives of African Americans,
Thank you, Vice
record
President
unemployment, record
Vice
investments in
President Pence, your time
education,
is
and we'll
up.
fight for school choice for all of our members.
Thank you, Vice
I'd like
President.
to respond.
Senator Harris.
I will not sit here and be lectured by the Vice President on what it means to enforce the laws of our country. I'm the only
They're
one on the
making
stage.
it a freaking woman thing.
Well, I don't know if okay. Who's making it a woman thing?
She keeps going, I will not be lectured to. She's essentially applyingly saying, I will not be lectured to by a man. You know, it's sometimes that's what it feels like.
Aspie, I don't think she's applying that. I think she's bringing up her own law enforcement career more than anything. Whereas opposed to Mike Pence did not really have a history of being in law enforcement of any sorts.
Well, I would say that partly that she's trying to get onto him, trying to say that he's, saying this to her because she's a woman, but partly because they believe like, oh, women can't be that.
I don't think that there is enough implication to make that assumption, Aspie. But anyway,
maybe not, but okay, let's keep going.
Yeah.
Was personally prosecuted. Everything from child sexual assault to homicide. I'm the only one on this stage who has prosecuted the big banks for taking advantage of America's homeowners. I'm the only one on this stage who prosecuted for-profit colleges for taking advantage of our veterans. And the reality of this is that we are talking...
She feels insulted, obviously, that he would dare criticize. I mean, whether or not it's because of being a woman or being essentially a cop, whatever, she still feels insulted, apparently.
Yeah.
about
Even
an
though
election.
I do not know the full extent of the reputation of Kamala Harris, but she is like one of the, generally speaking, it's accepted that she's one of the most corrupt law enforcement officials known right now in the modern age in this country. So really, everybody, whether it be somebody who has a law enforcement background or not, has a right to be criticizing Kamala Harris. So she can just get off her high horse at that point. You're saying, Espy?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was saying, so let's continue.
All right.
In 27 days, where last week the President of the United States took a debate stage in front of 70 million Americans and refused to condemn white supremacists.
Not true.
And
Oh, God.
Oh,
Bullshit.
come on!
Bullshit. Okay, for one thing, I explicitly remember. I even, paused for a second to point this out. The one part of where that Chris Wallace was asking him, will you condemn white supremacy? He said, albeit underneath his breath, but still he said, sure. So, yeah, he's against it. And, after he said sure, and after Chris Wallace finished his question about white supremacy, he was asking for specifics on who he should criticize, honestly. Proud Boys, I think he's barely even heard about Proud Boys, and I would question the claim as to whether or not that Proud Boys is a white supremacy group, because I hear a lot of people say that they are not, and I would probably be inclined to agree with them that they are ultimately not a white supremacist group.
They were started by Gavin McInnes, and they're more or less a patriot group, and I suppose there's a couple individuals that might be super far right, but I don't think they're involved in any sort of white identitarian movement or anything along those lines.
Right.
So,
sticking specifically to Trump, he said sure that he'll condemn white supremacy, but after that he just wants specifics on who he should criticize for white supremacy. Not to mention the fact that he has condemned Richard Spencer, and I think he's even condemned Jared Taylor is it Jared Taylor? Yeah, Jared Taylor for that matter too. So
Jared Taylor's kind of creepy, and by the way,
he really is. He's more creepy than Richard Spencer.
Richard Spencer's now supporting Biden.
I did hear about that actually, but yeah, Jared Taylor. He's more creepy than J.F. Garriepi. More creepy than yeah. Anyway, I'm not thinking Jared Taylor. I think I'm thinking of someone else. It was a former KKK wizard. I'm not so sure if Jared Taylor was a former KKK wizard.
No, he was. Jared Taylor was raised in Japan.
His first name was Dave, the KKK wizard I'm trying to think of.
I know who you're talking about. He was he ran for Senate from Louisiana, and that Tim Wise, who I despise just as much as that the guy he was fighting. I know this guy.
By the way, very quickly, see you later, Rational Outlaw.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
But yeah, I think we're going on a little bit too long about this point, but you guys get my point.
Not true.
David Duke, that was his name.
There he is.
Okay. I want to retract. It wasn't Jared Taylor. I don't think Donald Trump has condemned Jared Taylor. He's condemned David Duke. That was the specific KKK white supremacist that I was trying to think of, along with Richard Spencer. Jared Taylor, I haven't even heard vaguely of him speaking any word about Jared Taylor specifically.
Yeah, Jared Taylor's sort of small fry compared to David Duke.
Yeah, anyway.
it wasn't like he didn't have a chance. He didn't do it, and then he doubled down. And then he said, when pressed, stand back. Stand.
Look at Mike Pence. That's the type of reaction that I'm having right now. You can just see it in his eyes and on his facial expression. This is bullshit. Indeed it is, Pence. Indeed it is.
By. And this is a part of a pattern of Donald Trump's. He called Mexicans rapists and criminals. He instituted as his first act a Muslim ban on the issue of Charlottesville, where people were peacefully protesting the need for racial justice, where a young woman was killed, and on the other side there were neo-Nazis.
For some reason, my live chat is not updating on my computer browser here, although I'm seeing it from my phone. How are you watching the debate with those thick, with the 2 C's that you spell ass glasses? The Reaper,
Yeah,
the
I
Reaper
did.
Monkey, hello, how's it going in the chat there? He says, what's up, DarkCon? Yeah. Anyway, what was there something you about to say?
I was about to say nothing. I was just reading one of the things that he said.
Okay.
Anyway, keep going.
He's carrying tiki torches, shouting racial epithets, anti-Semitic slurs, and Donald Trump, when asked about it, said there were fine people on both sides. This is who we have as the president of the United
Oh
States.
my dear Lord! He did not say that. He was not talking about the people with the tiki torches. He was talking about the multiple other group, the white supremacists. White supremacists showed up after a bunch of other groups showed up. They were just one of the many groups that showed up. There were like 10 groups. So yeah, there were fine people. There were fine people on both sides that were there for good reasons. It was just one or two groups that showed up that were there to cause mayhem and to sort of inject their sort of vile worldview into this. So
Yeah. It seems to be just mostly coincidence that. Anyway, no, I'm not going to go on that spiel. You summarized it well enough, Aspie.
You deserve better.
Yeah.
Joe Biden will be a president who brings our country together
Senator Harris,
and recognizes the beauty in
No, bullshit. You know what? There's not going to hardly ever be a president that ever unites this country that is not going to, in some way or another, divide the people, because there's just too many people with such starkly different beliefs on politics. Anyway.
our diversity and the fact that we
Senator
all
Harris,
have
thank
so
you.
much more in common than what's
I just get so tired of hearing this hippie line of this politician will bring together this country, that politician will bring together this country, etc.
You can't bring this country together. There's that the left and the right have become such different animals that you can't really listen. About like 50 or 60 years ago, the Democrats and the Republicans weren't all that different. I mean, yes, you had some differing ideas on like taxes or regulations or certain ideological factors, but when it came down to it, they're both pretty similar. But nowadays, the idea of the sort of underlying philosophies, ideologies that guide the two parties are so different now that a difference in ideas can be to an extent resolved, not resolved, sort of shit.
I'm just going to you go on.
Yeah, I was going to say that but differing values that cannot be brought together. All right, if you have a difference in value in your deepest values, that's going to cause conflict whether you want it to or not.
Yeah,
right? And I don't
I'm
really
going to
see an
say
end to this.
I'm just going to say very quickly that I mean, people on the right can possibly like get some of the center leftists and centrists in general on their side, and the people on the left can possibly get center right or center righters and centrists on their side. But the extremes, the people who like have more passion for their actual beliefs, you're not going to get those people with you. You're still going to have at least 40% of the populace against you. There's not going to be complete union in this country as far as beliefs go.
separates us.
Vice President Pence, let me give you a minute to respond.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate that very much. You know, I think this is one of the things that makes people dislike the media so much in this country, Susan, is that you selectively edit, just like Senator Harris did, comments that President Trump and I and others on our side of the aisle make. I mean, Senator Harris...
attacking the moderator, that's not a good look, not a good idea, Pence. Sorry, no.
I don't think he attacked the moderator.
Well, he was attacking the media and was using the moderator as a foil for the media.
I don't really believe that, but anyway,
yeah.
Let's keep going. C-SPAN is not really like C-SPAN is not CNN. Okay,
Well,
I think they're pretty much just.
I'm pretty sure that this the moderator is from a different network other than C-SPAN. But
I don't know which one, but
Harris conveniently
yeah.
omitted after the president made comments about people on either side of the debate over monuments. He condemned the KKK, neo-Nazis, and white supremacists, and has done so repeatedly. You're concerned that he doesn't condemn neo-Nazis. President Trump has Jewish grandchildren. His daughter and son-in-law are Jewish. This is a president who who respects and cherishes all of the American people. But you talk about having personally prosecuted. I'm glad you brought up your record, Senator.
Thank you.
But I really need to make this point. When you were DA in San Francisco, when you left office, African Americans were 19 times more likely to be prosecuted for minor drug offenses than whites and Hispanics. When you were Attorney General of California, you increased the disproportionate incarceration of blacks in California. You did nothing on criminal justice reform in California. You didn't lift a finger to pass the First Step Act on Capitol Hill. I mean, the reality is your record speaks for itself. President Trump and I have fought for criminal justice reform.
Thank you, Vice President
We fought for
Pence.
educational choice and opportunities for African Americans, all of our
Thank you, sir.
And we'll do it for free.
Thank you. You know, there is no more important issue.
Ouch.
Okay, if he's well, okay, yeah, it is a good point, the substance of it in of itself, but just if you're going to go a little bit over your time, that's one thing, but if you're going to go like that much over your time, it just makes me face palm.
And the final issue that we're going to talk about tonight, and that is the issue of the election
But
itself.
he attacked my record. I would like an opportunity to respond.
Let me give you 30 seconds because we're running out of time.
I appreciate that. First of all, having served as the Attorney General of the state of California, the work that I did is a model of what our nation needs to do, and we will be able to do under a Joe Biden presidency. Our agenda includes what this administration has failed to do. It will be about not only instituting a ban on chokeholds and carotid holes.
Thank you.
Not only,
Thank you, Senator
I would
Harris.
like to go through.
These are points that you made earlier in the hour, and I want to talk about the election itself before we have.
Yeah,
wanna
exactly. Just repeating yourself. You were wanting to address your own record. You should have gone straight to addressing your own record, defending your own record, instead of saying, "Oh, this is what we're going to do." That's not what you said that you were going to address. What you and Biden were going to do. You were going to address your own record, but yet you did not. At least not yet, anyways.
About the connection between what Joe and I will do and my record, which includes I was the first statewide officer to institute a requirement that my agents would wear body cameras and keep them on full time. We were the first to initiate a requirement that there would be a training for
That does not negate what Pence said.
law enforcement on implicit
Exactly.
bias because, yes, Joe Biden and I recognize that implicit bias does exist, Mr. Vice President, contrary to what you may believe. We did the work of instituting reforms that were about investing in
Implicit bias tests are pure bullshit. They're so what's the word for it? Unregular, inconsistent. They're so inconsistent that you can't really, put it all down to just, that, And also implicit bias does not really affect people's behavior. It's not really correlated with. There's actually been studies that show that the more implicit bias people have towards another race, the better they treat that race. So it's completely unrelated to thing. And I've personally taken a implicit bias test, and it showed me as having a strong preference for my own race, which I was not surprised by because, I'm autistic, I prefer what is, familiar to me. That does not mean I hate black people or that I treat them wrongly. That just means, my brain just has a natural preference for, a group, for my own sort of group. So.
But you're going to get canceled, Aspie. Holy shit. No.
I know I'm not going to. Everybody knows that most people know about these tests. So it's not really something because I know how inconsistent these tests are. It doesn't really bother me all that much.
Yeah.
It's nothing. Yeah, exactly. So
Moving on.
Let's keep going. Yeah.
This is the work that we have done and the work we will do going forward. And again,
So far, I have to say that we're doing a little bit better time than the last stream. The last stream ended up being 3 hours and 40 minutes. This is about 2.5 hours. At the rate we're going, we'll probably get done within the 3-hour mark of this stream. Hopefully, anyways.
Again, I will not be lectured by the Vice President on our record of what we have done in terms of law enforcement and keeping our communities safe. And
You will be lectured, bitch!
You will be lectured, bitch, and you will be zapped by Pence's you'll be zapped by Pence's gay transmission powers.
to reforming the criminal justice system of America.
Thank you, Senator Harris. And I'd like you to respond first to the question on our final topic, the election itself. President Trump has several times refused to commit himself to a peaceful transfer of power after the election. If your ticket wins and President Trump refuses to accept a peaceful transfer of power, what steps would you
Oh boy, this again.
and Vice President Biden then take? What would happen next? You have 2 minutes.
So I'll tell you, Joe and I are, I think, particularly proud of
This issue, this is the second time that this issue is brought up. The media is just trying to divide America even more so by consistently bringing up the whole peaceful transfer of power issue. I mean, there's no solid reasoning to suggest that Trump will not do a peaceful transfer of power. The most that they have is hyperbolic statements and tweets from Trump. Some of them that they want to blow out of proportion. But did he actually say that he'll absolutely refuse to give up the presidency if there's like a clear-cut, result as to of Biden winning? If Biden wins, I mean, as far as I know, there hasn't.
The coalition that we've built around our campaign. We probably have one of the broadest coalitions of folks that you've ever seen in a presidential race. Of course, we have this.
Bullshit.
Excuse me, I'm going to go to the restroom, but I'm going to take my phone with me, so I'm going to turn off the audio.
All right.
Democrats, but also independents and Republicans. In fact, 7 members of President George W. Bush's cabinet are supporting our ticket. We have the support of Colin Powell, Cindy McCain, John Kasich, over 500 generals, retired generals, and former national security experts and advisors are supporting our campaign. And I believe they are doing that because they know that Joe Biden has a deep, deep-seated commitment to fight for our democracy and to fight for the integrity of our democracy and to bring integrity back to the White House. And so we believe in the American people. We believe in our democracy. And here's what I'd like to say to everybody. Vote. Please vote. Vote early. Come up with a plan to vote. Go to iwillvote.com. You can also go to Joe.
Oh, crap. She's doing the same thing that Biden did a little bit too early, making this a voter turnout ad. I'm sick of this. Save it for the end, Harris. Save it for the end when you give your closing statements. Wow.
You gotta vote. You gotta vote. I'm probably not going to do it. I'm probably not going to be doing it by mail. I'll probably be doing it at the poll stations. Will the poll stations even be open?
Well, I'm pretty sure that they are. Or at least I'm pretty sure here in Kansas that they will be. Don't know about you and Cali there, but nonetheless, I'm tired of this statement right here, and she's not really addressing the question of what steps would you take if President Trump refuses a peaceful transfer of power. I mean, I know that sometimes I like to lay some foreground before I start to clearly answer the question. Sometimes when I'm asked a question, here, let me put down some of the background or some of the framing for me to answer my question. But I'm just asking myself, is it really that freaking necessary for how much people are doing it within these official debates right here? Because they go on a tangent that almost seems practically entirely irrelevant to the question that was asked to them. Instead of actually, when they go laying the foreground before they answer the question.
Biden.com.
Yeah.
We have it within our power in these next 27 days to make the decision to be the course of our country for the next 4 years. And it is within our power, and if we use our vote and we use our voice, we will win. And we will not let anyone subvert our democracy with what Donald Trump has been doing, as he did on the debate stage last week, when again in front of 70 million people.
Hey, I gotta go. I've got homework to do, and also got to get myself dinner.
Running mate, the actual top of the ticket.
Shit, I accidentally fast forward there. I was mean to pause that, not fast forward it, but
I'm sorry about that. Sorry, I've been jumping in and out. You know,
I know you're watching all this.
It's not that not like I didn't want to be on here. I wanted to watch the debate with my family. So, yeah. So I was just jumping in and out. Instead,
yeah, I gotcha. You have to go. Well then, good on you, Aspie. Now I have to find my freaking place. Instead of the pause button, I hit the skip the next button. Damn it! Fucking damn it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go now. It was good talking to you, Thol. It was good. This was a fun time with all of you. We'll talk another time.
Yeah, thanks for joining, Aspie.
Also, one more thing. I am doing an interview with Dr. Lehman this Friday at 10 o'clock Pacific time. So be sure to check in for that. I had the shill for a second. See you, everyone. Bye.
See you later, Aspie.
Bye, DarkCon.
Thanks for joining. There goes my co-host, and I think this is the place that we were at right now, folks.
And here's what I'd like to say to everybody. Vote. Please vote. Vote
Yep,
early. Come
yep,
up with a plan to vote. Go to
definitely.
iwillvote.com. You can also go to joebiden.com. We have it within our power in these next 27 days to make the decision about what will be the course of our country for the next 4 years. And it is within our power, and if we use our vote and we use our voice, we will win. And we will not let anyone subvert our democracy with what Donald Trump has been doing, as he did on the debate stage last week, when again in front of 70 million people, he openly attempted to suppress the vote. Joe Biden, on the other hand, on that same debate stage.
What? How did he suppress the vote right there on the debate stage? I mean, okay, you cannot suppress, in all practicality, you cannot suppress any votes on a mere debate stage. It's what you do behind the scenes within the counting of the voting numbers, you know. If anything, that's how you suppress the vote. You don't go just making statements on the debate stage. That's not how you suppress votes. What the fuck are you talking about, Harris? Are you a crackpot? Anyway.
Because clearly Donald Trump doesn't think he can run on a record because it's a failed record. Joe Biden on that stage said, hey, just please vote. So I'll repeat what Joe said. Please vote.
Thank you, Senator. Vice President Pence, President Trump has
Oh, brother, you did not answer the question, really.
several times refused to commit himself to a peaceful transfer of power after the election. If Vice President Biden is declared the winner and
I mean, does he really have... Okay, out of curiosity, does he really have to do a fully verbal, statement that I will do peaceful transfer of power? Shouldn't it just, like, go without saying, generally?
President Trump refuses to accept a peaceful transfer of power, what would be your role and responsibility as Vice President? What would you personally do? You have 2 minutes.
Well, Susan, first and foremost, I think we're going to win this election. Because while Joe Biden and Kamala Harris rattle off a long litany of the establishment in Washington, D.C., an establishment that Joe Biden's been a part of for 47 years, President Donald Trump has launched a movement of everyday Americans from every walk of life. And I have every confidence that those same Americans that delivered that historic victory in 2016, they see this president's record, where we rebuild our military, we revived our economy through tax cuts and rolling back regulation, fighting for fair trade, unleashing American energy. We appointed conservatives to our federal courts at every level. And we stood with the men and women of law enforcement every single day. And I think that movement of Americans has only grown stronger in the last 4 years. But when you talk about accepting the outcome of the election, I must tell you, Senator, your party has spent the last 3.5 years trying to overturn the results of the last election. It's amazing. When Joe Biden was Vice President of the United States, the FBI actually spied on President Trump and my campaign. I mean, there were documents released this week that the CIA actually made a referral to the FBI documenting that those allegations were coming from the Hillary Clinton campaign. And of course, we've all seen the avalanche, what you put the country through for the better part of 3 years until it was found that there was no obstruction, no collusion, case closed. In the Congress, tried to impeach the President of the United States over a phone call. And now Hillary Clinton has actually said to Joe Biden that in her words, under no circumstances should he concede the election. So let me just say, I think we're going to win this election. President Trump and I are fighting every day in courthouses to prevent Joe Biden and Kamala Harris from changing the rules and creating this universal mail-in voting that will create a massive opportunity for voter fraud. And we have a free and fair election. We know we're going to have confidence in it. And I believe in all my heart that President Donald Trump's going to be reelected for 4 more years.
Okay, he did not answer the question either. Neither of them answered the question. Although I will say that it's not that's not that big a deal that they did not give a direct answer to the question, because really I just think that it is a completely fuck-ton chalk-loaded question that is just meant to divide the country further. So it's neither here nor there, but all the same, neither of them answered it.
I've written all the questions that I've asked tonight, but for the final question of the debate, I'd like to read a question that someone else wrote. The Utah Debate Commission asked students in the state to write essays about what they would like to ask you. And I want to close tonight's debate with the question posed by Brecklin Brown. She's an 8th grader at Springville Junior High in Springville, Utah. And here's what she wrote, quote, "When I watch the news, all I see is arguing between Democrats and Republicans. When I watch the news, all I see is citizen fighting against citizen. When I watch the news, all I see are 2 candidates from opposing parties trying to tear each other down. If our leaders can't get along, how are the citizens supposed to get along?" And then she added, "Your examples could make all the difference to bring us together," end quote. So to each of you in turn, I'd like you to take 1 minute and respond to Brecklin. Vice President Pence, you have 1 minute.
Brecklin, it's a wonderful question. And let me just commend you for taking an interest in public life. I started following the news when I was very young. And in America, we believe in a free and open exchange of debate. And we celebrate that. And it's how we've created literally the freest and most prosperous nation in the history of the world. I would tell you that don't assume that what you're seeing on your local news networks is synonymous with the American people. I look at the relationship between Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the late justice who we just lost.
Exactly. I think that's a pretty good answer on Mike's part. Do not assume that that what you see on TV is a reflection of American life, American general exchange of ideas in politics within American life.
The Supreme Court and the late Justice Antonin Scalia. They were on polar opposites on the Supreme Court of the United States. One very liberal, one very conservative. But what's been learned since her passing was the two of them and their families were the very closest of friends. I mean, here in America, we can disagree. We can debate vigorously, as Senator Harris and I have on this stage tonight. But when the debate is over, we come together as Americans. And that's what people do in big cities and small towns all across this country. So I just want to encourage you, Brecklin. I want to...
Well, okay. From what I'm analyzing right here, between you attacking Kamala Harris's reputation as a law enforcement official, and Kamala Harris's attacking of your honesty or integrity in general, Mike Pence, it seems to be a lot worse of a relationship than what you're juxtaposing between the Scalia family and the Ginsburg family. If this is supposed to be the reflection right here, if it really is along those same lines of the, relation that you two, or exchange that you two are having right here with one another, well, then it wasn't a good relationship. Just saying.
I tell you that we're going to work every day to have government as good as our people. And the American people each and every day love a good debate. We love a good argument. But we always come together and are always there for one another in times of need. And we've especially learned that through the difficulties of this year.
Senator Harris, what would you say to Brecklin?
First of all, I love hearing from our young leaders. And when I hear her words, when I hear your words, Brecklin, I know our future is bright, because it is that perspective on who we are and who we should be. That is a sign of leadership, and is something.
Look at her. She comes across as so fake and phony with that smile. That smile does not look legitimate at all that she gives. Even when she's not doing a smug smirk at Mike Pence or anyone else, you're such a piece of crap, that kind of a smug smirk. Even when it's not that kind of a smile, and she's trying to just smile in general to try and lift up the spirits of anyone that she's talking to through the camera, it doesn't come up as spiritual lifting or anything positive like that. It just comes across completely phony and fake, and holy shit, it's just aggravatingly disgusting.
Thing we should all aspire to be. And that brings me to Joe. Joe Biden, one of the reasons that Joe decided to run for president is after Charlottesville, which we talked about earlier. It so troubled him and upset him, like it did all of us, that there was that kind of hate and division. What propelled Joe to run for president was to see that over the course of the last 4 years, what Brecklin...
Oh shit, I feel it right now. As opposed to Mike Pence just make it a general statement about people coming together, and essentially not attacking Kamala Harris within that last statement. Kamala Harris is within her own statement and answer to Brecklin's question going to be saying essentially that the Trump administration is a administration of division. She's going to completely turn this on its head. I can feel it.
Described has been happening. Joe has a long-standing reputation of working across the aisle and working in a bipartisan way. And that's what he's going to do as president. Joe Biden has a history of lifting people up and fighting for their dignity. You have to know Joe's story to know that Joe has known pain, he has known suffering, and he has known love. And so, Brecklin, when you think about the future...
Okay, well, yeah, so far she hasn't brought up the Trump administration and how divisive that they've allegedly have been. She's more specifically saying, oh, look of how virtuous Joe is, or we are, supposedly.
I do believe the future is bright, and it will be because of your leadership, and it will be because we fight for each person's voice through their vote, and we get engaged in this election because you have the ability through your work and through eventually your vote to determine the future of our country and what its leadership looks like.
Thank you, Senator Harris.
Okay, so my feeling was wrong. She did not turn that around into an attack against Mike Pence, Trump, and the general current administration. But instead, she decided to turn it into a self-aggrandizement. Whereas Mike Pence did not turn it into a self-aggrandizement of, oh, look at how non-divisive my side is, or whatever. Anyway, I just thought that Mike's answer to Brecklin's question was a little bit better than Harris's question. But I digress.
Thank you, Vice President Pence. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. We want to thank also the University of Utah for its hospitality, and most of all, our thanks to all the Americans who watched this debate tonight. Again, our best wishes for a quick recovery to President Trump.
All right, so we're pretty much, okay, USA Today, Washington Bureau Chief. So she's from USA Today. Okay. So final thoughts. I cannot say that there's any clear winner right there. I was able to say like halfway through the debate, even like a third way through of the last debate, that Trump seems to be winning on a substantive side of things. And by the end of the live stream, or excuse me, by the end of, well, my own live stream, and by the end of the debate in general, I got saying solidly that Trump pretty much won. I mean, on an optics side of thing and cordiality, whatnot, that Biden looked better than Trump. But on the substantive side of things, Trump looked better than Biden. And overall, that's what matters most of all. And Trump won on that front. But here, I cannot declare a clear winner. They just both looked so bad on optics side of thing. Kamala Harris coming off as such an awkward, sleazy, smug cunt, basically, to put it very bluntly. I mean, I'm sure that there is a nicer way that I could have put it, y'all, instead of like calling her the C word. But nonetheless, you get my general point. Nonetheless, she's just coming off as phony, is what she is. Be it that, or Mike Pence going over time with his statements, whatnot, or on the substantive side of things, Kamala Harris got Pence on some parts, and Pence got Kamala Harris on some other parts. Like I'm going to just remind people, there was the one point that Pence had mentioned how the Biden administration, or excuse me, it's not Biden administration, there is no Biden administration yet anyways, but of how Biden and Harris were against banning international travel until the end of the coronavirus stuff, you know? Kamala Harris did not address that. So that's definitely a point right there for Mike Pence. And again, Harris did not want to address the whole idea of packing the court, just like Biden refused to in the last debate. Overall, I could probably go back and look, but overall, I say that Harris did slightly better than Biden. Actually, I'd say considerably better than Biden. Nonetheless, I cannot make out a clear winner myself. Tell me what you all think in the comment section, or the live chat, of who you thought won the debate. But anyway, I think this is where I'm going to end it, and we are well before the 3-hour mark, actually. About 9 minutes before hitting the 3-hour mark. But I'm going to end this live stream because I am tired. I got work in the morning, and yeah. I probably won't be able to live stream react to the next debate, the second presidential debate. Actually, it's questionable as to whether or not that debate is going to even happen because of, Trump catching the Rona recently. Who knows? The presidential committee might just say no debate because Trump is not quarantining for long enough or whatever. But if it does happen at the same time and day that's supposed to happen, chances are that I won't be reviewing it, at least not live anyways, because I have something else I'm doing entirely. Going to adult skate and whatnot. Just a little bit of a social thing with some other personal friends. Maybe I'll do like a short vlog of where that I give my own off the cuff review of the debate. But nonetheless, thank you all for watching. I will see you whenever. And yeah, God bless you all, and God save this country.